Most of England and Wales staying fairly cloudy. Bye for now.
We can expect clear skies, leading to a light and warm day ahead. Lovely. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion, Mark Meets, and My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there short and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good morning. A landmark new agreement between the UK and Germany to stop the people smuggling gangs.
That's as the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, pauses all decisions on Syrian asylum seekers.
So, will the new changes help finally put an end to illegal crossings in the Channel?
Yes, they scrapped the Rwanda plan. They didn't make any targets for migration, but they're announcing a new deal with Germany. Will it make a difference?
Another Tory defection. This time, billionaire Nick Candy joins Reform as the party's new treasurer. pledging to help make Nigel Farage Prime Minister.
Farmers are preparing for another day of protest as the government ignores their pleas over those changes to inheritance tax.
And despite the issues piling up at home, the Prime Minister's showing no sign of ditching his jet-setting ways. But he's certainly not the only one. We'll be debating whether all our politicians are spending too much time overseas.
26-year-old suspect at the centre of last week's health CEO shooting in New York has been dramatically arrested at a McDonald's in the United States and now charged.
Despite increasing medical advancements, dementia remains the UK's lead cause of death last year. That's as researchers urge the government to take more action.
And Prince Harry's latest Netflix venture premieres today, Polo. But will it flop like the couple's previous streaming offerings?
And in the sport, not that I'm knocking polo, West Ham beat Wolves, so looking on the bright side for Wolves manager Gary O'Neill, he may not have to work over Christmas. Referee David Coote is fired by the PGMOL, and the biggest sports contract in history has been signed.
High pressure has returned, a stark contrast to the storminess of last week, but not necessarily dry and sunny for everyone. There will be some showery rain and even some dense fog about this morning. I'll have the full forecast coming up shortly.
Very good morning to you. It's just gone 6 o'clock. I'm Ben Leo.
I'm Isabel Webster, and you're tuned in to GB News Breakfast. Still adapting to those Christmas titles that we have there with snowflakes and everything.
Pretty feel good.
Very festive.
Pretty feel good.
Enjoying
Inspiring.
that.
You inspired?
Lovely. Always inspired. Love a bit of Christmas. I nearly took my finger off, by the way, yesterday.
Why?
Just to let you know.
Yeah.
I was always like Dave Allen. It would have been today. I've got this box for the tree. You know when you get all these different clamps and things?
Oh,
and then you
yes,
can,
yeah.
But this one is great. It's box. It's a big box. And then you've got these two wooden things that slide in. Anyway, I'm trying to get the thing moving, and because it wouldn't, and I've tried putting WD-40 down the side, but it's all wood. I've got my hand like that, and it's gone like that. It was... boom, right in the middle. So in between, where there's the little bit where the tree goes in, my finger was just in there and missed the thing. Honestly.
Is that OK now? Let me have a look.
You know what? It's actually not bad. It's actually not bad. You can't really see anything. Did I cry? No, you know what I did? I laughed in the face of adversity. Yeah, I did. I just went, that's a little bit of...
swear a little bit?
I did a little bit, just a little bit. But finally,
leave it
it took me ages.
Leave it to the wife.
Trees like this, then it's like this, then you had a bit like this. Oh.
So you only just put your tree up last night?
Yeah, I did it last night.
What brought that on
do you think
on a Monday night?
Well, because I'd missed it over the weekend and the rain was so bad, and I thought, I'm not going to bring a wet tree because I buy a real tree.
Yeah.
So then finally I thought Monday, get to the place, it's pitch black, so they've got lights, so... But then I'm there with my son. We must have been through about 300 trees. How about that one? Bit missing, on to the next one. How about that one? It's got to be perfect. So finally.
Did you miss Ruby not having her there for the tree ritual?
Yeah, but the thing is, the tree's there but hasn't been decorated yet.
Where is she?
She's in Manchester. She's at uni in Manchester, so maybe I'll wait for the weekend.
Save the decorations.
Maybe I'll wait. But then what happens? She won't be interested.
Yes,
let's all do it together.
Yes, she will. Right, let's get stuck into our top story this morning. The UK and Germany have agreed what's being described as a landmark action plan to tackle small boat crossings.
The plan means Germany will now make it a specific criminal offence to facilitate migrant smuggling to the UK.
Quite surprising that wasn't the case already. The Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, says that the deal will boost border security and save lives.
Where the gangs operate across borders, law enforcement needs to operate across borders as well. And that is why this joint action plan is so important. This is groundbreaking work in order to allow us to share intelligence, to better share information, to be able to strengthen our actions, strengthen law enforcement and powers to be able to go after the criminal gangs and their supply chains and their illicit finance as well.
But the big question, of course,
will
it work?
How will it work? How will it work? The Shadow Home Secretary, Chris Philp, doesn't think so, saying the plans don't go far enough.
And we've got him on the programme a little bit later on, so we'll try and find out what his suggestion would be on all of this. But let's get the views in the meantime of our political correspondent, Catherine Forster, who joins us from Westminster. Good morning to you, Catherine. This is going to be something that the government will be really pleased to be rolling out.
Yes, indeed. They'll be making a lot of noise about this today because, of course, they came in, they scrapped the Rwanda plan, which was supposed to be a deterrent. They haven't set any numbers on migration, either illegal or legal, but they are working on cracking the gangs, as they keep saying, smash the gangs. And of course, the people coming across the channel have made their way across Europe to get there. So this new deal with Germany, yes, as you've said, they're changing the law to make facilitating people smuggling a specific criminal offence. I think people will be amazed, as you say, Isabel, that that's not already the case. More broadly, to tackle the supply and storage of the small boats. Many of the boats are stored in Germany and parts for those boats and so on. Also to tackle information on social media, these adverts that you get encouraging people to come across, making it sound great, showing people happily arriving in in England and so on. And separate to that, in London today, there's also a meeting of the Calais group. That is the UK, Germany, France, Belgium and the Netherlands. All the countries are closely involved with what's happening in the Channel, and they are hoping to agree a detailed plan to counter illegal migration from next year. The Home Secretary has been clear. She said this cannot go on. Unfortunately, it is going on. It's been going on for years. The numbers are up this year on last year. More people have died in the Channel this year than for several years prior. So the government are saying they're going to smash the gangs. They've had some successes. Let's see if this makes a significant difference next year.
Yeah, go on.
Sorry, go on.
I was just going to ask Catherine, whilst we're on the topic, about this pausing of asylum claims for Syrians. Two reasons for that. One, I suppose a number of them might be eligible to go back now that the threat from Assad has gone. And the other concern being, of course, that there could be jihadis being released from jail who could be a threat to us here at home.
Yes, this news came yesterday afternoon. France and Germany had already announced that they are suspending asylum claims, and Syrians have made, I think, the fifth biggest number of people making asylum claims. 99% of those have been successful. But yes, the Home Office has decided that let's suspend them for now. First of all, of course, the West welcomed the fact that Assad has been removed. A number of people that are here might want to go back. But at the same time, there's potential security implications of the people who might now want to come back here, maybe people associated with the Assad regime, or maybe jihadists. We don't know how things are going to go in Syria. It could all work out much better, but it's very uncertain at the moment who is going to be in charge and how this will pan out. So putting a pause on it for now.
OK, Catherine Forster, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Yeah, it's there was that narrative at the start of this Syria situation that we'd have an influx of refugees coming from Syria to the UK. Now we're talking about how many are going to be leaving the UK. There's just question marks all over the shop.
Yeah, lots of questions. Let's turn our attention, though, to matters at home. And property tycoon and husband of the pop star and a soap star, I suppose you could call her as well, Holly Valance, Nick Candy, has announced he's left the Conservative Party and has joined Reform, and he's joining as their treasurer.
Yes, Mr Candy accuses the Conservatives of making too many broken promises and breaching trust.
Well, let's speak to the former advisor to Boris Johnson, Oscar Redrock. Good morning to you, Oscar. Good to see you.
Good morning, guys.
I have to say, look, there's obviously been this drip, drip, drip of people joining Reform in recent days, and, you know, a lot of them sort of expected candidates, I suppose. I actually thought that Nick Candy was already a member of Reform, having seen him and Holly at a number of press conferences in the past, not least when Nigel Farage announced that he was taking over again as leader. But is this going to sting the Conservatives in the way that perhaps it's designed to, given that it's sort of
without naming any names, there have been some kind of reform jumpers from the Tory party that I think hierarchy in the Tory party have probably gone, well, we're not too bothered about that, in all fairness. But actually, I think this one, although it has been on the cards in the background for as you hinted at, for a long old time, I think is indicative and is a real symptom of some of the problems and challenges the Tory party now face. I mean, this is money. This is the stuff that, that drives a party. And a party, particularly in opposition, the Tories would have loved to have had. And, it is a drip, drip, drip. It kind of every couple of days you feel there's a convert to the Reform Party, former Tories, commentators, MPs, husbands, and then who... Yeah. Exactly, and then, what will probably follow there, we'll see in the next few weeks, I imagine. And, the Tory party at the moment are kind of have laid low, I think maybe quite strategically, letting Labour make a few mistakes here and there. That's me being quite generous. But they haven't really pulled up any trees yet, the Tory party. And this is not a good sign. Yeah. This is because I know people don't want to hear it because that money in politics is always a controversial thing. But this is the stuff that keeps the clock ticking for a party. And he's been a very loyal and important backer for the Tory party. This is a big loss.
Well, in terms of the money, Oscar, yes, it's a good thing. But he does seem to, Nick Candy, change with the wind. Because in February he praised Sir Keir Starmer as a good and decent man with good values and good morals, and went further by saying it's probably time for change, as he hailed Labour and their vision for the country. So he's gone from being a Conservative donor to supporting Keir Starmer and now going to Reform. So the money's great, but is it much of a statement?
It's an interesting point. I imagine a lot of those comments around Starmer were just informed by a frustration that not just he had, but the entire country had with the Tory party at that moment in time. We've seen lots of polls around Reform in terms of them, shooting ahead of the Conservative Party over the last few weeks and months. I think that's a little bit overstated, but when you see people jumping over like this and putting their money where their mouth is, that is a real sign of kind of momentum, at least.
Elon Musk as well, if that ever did happen.
Well, I think he did say, didn't he? I think he shouted at a reporter who asked him about that, like, I'm not interested in that. But that doesn't necessarily mean, in the fullness of time, it might not happen. But no, it's really worrying for the Tory party. CCHQ, which is, runs all their campaigns, and, it's kind of on its knees at the moment.
But Oscar, how much this is the fault of Kemi Badenoch? Is she doing enough to revive the Conservatives? A lot of people saying that she's been underwhelming at PMQs.
Yeah.
She's been absent, missing in action, frankly, a lot of the time overseas. I know she was meeting JD Vance in Washington last week, important strategic contacts. But, do we need to see her whilst Reform is in the headlines every day with, as you say, polls, defections, etc.?
Well, Muhammad Ali is a boxer who gets a bit arch. He used to kind of do the rope-a-dope strategy where he used to kind of slip and slide. And, if Farage is the one punching and punching away, I'm going to be generous and say, similar to Starmer, when you look at his early days, the Tory party and Badenoch are just kind of hanging back and strategically allowing this unpopular Labour government be unpopular time and time again. And they're getting their ideas together. And hopefully... And when you see stories like this, they need to get the coffers in. They need to get their money together.
Okay.
Yeah, interesting. Oscar, thank you very much. Appreciate that. OK, unrest brewing among farmers is still ongoing, of course. Hundreds of tractors will descend on Westminster tomorrow in protest over the inheritance tax raid.
It comes after the government, of course, announced those changes to agricultural inheritance tax in October's budget, which rally organisers Kent, Fairness and Farmers and Save British Farming have described as toxic.
Joining us now is dairy farmer and columnist Paul Tompkins. Good morning, Paul. Thank you for joining us so early, but I guess it's probably quite late in the day for you hard-working farmers, so you're up at the crack of dawn. Are you going to be attending the protest tomorrow in London, and will it differ much from the first one we saw on Saturday a couple of weeks back?
Well, Ben, there's actually... this is part of a wider campaign to keep this story in the headlines. So the point of turning up at these events, I'm actually going to be at one in York rather than London, is a slow reminder that this topic is not going away. Farmers are really affected by this policy, and we're going to be doing all we can to make sure that the Chancellor is willing to come to the table, meet with us, talk with us, understand what the problems are, so that we can find out a resolution that works for everyone.
Paul, I was talking to a farmer on Saturday who lives in my village. He's diversified away from dairy, but he's still very much in the agricultural sector, stands to be affected by these changes. He was worried, and he is protesting today, but he was worried that there is a chance that if there was too much disruption, if there were too many tractors perhaps in the capital tomorrow, that actually you could lose public support being this close to Christmas. He didn't want it to end up being a bit like Just Stop Oil, where people going about their festivities, perhaps they're going up to see a carol service or whatever it might be, they could lose the public support. Do you accept that as an argument?
Isabel, your neighbour's not unusual. There's a lot of people who have been pulled in to this tax bracket and this new policy that the Chancellor has introduced to tax us when we die. But and it's that combination of business property relief together with agricultural property relief, which is indeed capturing so many more people. So I'm not surprised to learn there are others who are also feeling affected by this and want the Chancellor to listen and hear about the implications of this policy on our businesses and our viability for the future. Like you've said, we only need to do two things. Farmers are aware they're doing two things on that, and that is making sure we continue to enjoy the public support we have. And repeated studies, repeated surveys are showing that the public are well and truly on side of this. They can also see that this tax seems to be really unfair on hard-working families across that work in our rural economy. So I can assure you that all of the activities that farmers are trying to do to encourage the Chancellor to come to the table are really mindful of the fact that we don't want to disturb the day-to-day lives of everyone else, because there are lots of other hard-working people around the country as well.
Yeah,
so
Paul,
our ambition is to raise the profile.
Sorry to interrupt you, Paul. I was just going to say, if you aren't getting what you want from the government and they're not listening to you, when will you consider turning the screw and potentially going on strike, stop providing supermarkets with food and hitting households with supply problems and issues? Surely one of the biggest statements you can make is, for example, scuppering Christmas dinner. I know you say you don't want to affect everyday Brits, but that would be a hell of a message.
Look, this is evidently turning into a marathon rather than a sprint. So we're not necessarily focused on the short term, but those opportunities next week to continue to raise the profile of this family farm tax. So there's going to be a whole series of events happening. And of course, they will be slowly getting bigger and larger. An answer to your question, Ben, the time when this will be resolved is entirely up to the Chancellor. When she comes to the table to discuss this problem that she's introduced to hard-working families across the country, then that will be the time when we no longer see tractors in the streets and they'll be back in the fields.
All right. Well, Paul, thank you for keeping us posted on your plans and your feelings on this, and do stay in touch with us here at GB News.
Thanks, Paul. Let's have a look at some of the other stories coming into the newsroom this morning. 26-year-old Luigi Mangione has been arrested and charged overnight in connection with the fatal shooting of US healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Mr. Thompson was shot dead on a Manhattan street in broad daylight last week in what's believed to have been a targeted assassination.
The suspect, Mr. Mangione, was arrested at Pennsylvania McDonald's and was quickly arrested after being recognised by staff there. According to NYPD officials, when arrested, he was found carrying a handwritten manifesto which criticised healthcare companies.
Elsewhere, the Prime Minister has said Britain and its allies must be intensely focused on the transition to a new regime in Syria amid fears of a resurgent Islamic State. It comes as the UK has paused all Syrian asylum claims.
And the Princess of Wales is one of the 10 people being shortlisted for Time Person of the Year. She joins the likes of Elon Musk, Donald Trump, Kamala Harris, Benjamin Netanyahu and Yulia Navalnaya, among others. Princess Catherine is being hailed by the magazine for starting a conversation around privacy and health for public figures.
Who's your shout for winner then, Izzy, for Time Person of the Year?
I'd probably go for Yulia Navalnaya. I met her a couple of weeks ago. I think she's incredible. She's picked up where her husband left off in absolutely opposing everything that Putin's done to her country, but also to Ukraine. And obviously has gone through the personal grief of losing her husband, who was just so incredibly brave. So I think her story is incredible. Have you watched the Oscar-winning documentary about Navalny?
I haven't.
It's really worth watching.
What was she like when you met her?
Grief-stricken still, eyes filled up with tears, quite sort of cold in a kind of Soviet sort of way, you know, that sort of business-like way. I mean, she was very on edge. She was surrounded by security guards.
Where was she? Where's she living now?
I don't actually know where she's living. I know she was in Germany, in Berlin, around the time that her husband died, but one of her children, her daughter, has been in the States working in Washington, but I suspect she's in Europe somewhere. Often, I think in Berlin, they speak Russian quite fluently as well. So
the thing is, even if you're not in Russia, we know that Russian agents are everywhere. Putin is everywhere, and even in the so-called safety of Berlin, I wouldn't feel safe if I was.
Well, I have to say, we were at this event, my husband and I were at this event, and suddenly an opera singer started performing, and the smoke came out of all of the machines, and we started thinking, oh my God, there's Yulia Navalnaya right behind us, and all the security were trying to get them turned off. So it was a slightly dodgy moment where we thought we might be being smoked out by some Russian agents. But anyway,
good shout.
So that would be my person of the year. Who would be yours?
Well, I think you've sold it to me, so
good.
Probably her. But I was going to say Donald Trump. Even if you don't like him politically, I think he's
had a comeback.
I mean,
comeback king.
His comeback arch. I mean, he was assassinated nearly twice, attempts on his life twice.
That's true.
What his supporters would argue is lawfare. He lost the election in 2020 and he's now come back to win it for a second time. So.
And also, I have a soft spot for the Princess of Wales, of course, because goodness me, what a horrible year.
Yeah.
And she's been so gracious. And don't forget all that furore back in March when everyone, was speculating about what was going on. People in China, everybody thought she was dead.
I forgot about that.
And Kim Kardashian tweeting. It was crazy. And she maintained her dignified silence, going through everything that she was going through. Has been a heck of a year for her as well.
I completely forgot about all that. That was insane.
It was insane.
People lost their marbles.
The conspiracy theories were wild. Do you remember? Who would be your Time Person of the Year? Let us know your vote this morning, gbnews.com/your say.
All right, let's get your weather update with Aidan McGibbon.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. High pressure in charge today, a stark contrast to last week's stormy weather. Cloudy for many, but frost and fog prevalent across northern parts of the country. Scotland, Northern Ireland, seeing some low temperatures as we begin the day, and some dense fog patches could cause tricky driving conditions particularly through the central belt, and that fog could persist into the afternoon in one or two spots. Otherwise, sunny skies for Scotland and Northern Ireland. The Northern Isles affected by cloud and rain, and some showery rain coming into the southeast of England on a brisk northeasterly breeze. That's going to make it feel cold, 7 or 8 Celsius in the south, but below freezing where any fog patches persist. And that fog will tend to reform and develop more widely once again into the evening as the sun goes down, especially through the central belt, but also across many Highland glens and into Northern Ireland as well. Some dense fog patches forming widely after dark. Meanwhile, clear skies will lead to sub-zero temperatures once again for Scotland, Northern Ireland, parts of northwest England and West Wales overnight, but a lot of cloud remains for the rest of England and Wales, and again some showery rain and a brisk breeze coming in from the northeast will keep temperatures above freezing in the south and southeast. But it's going to be a grey night across many southern and eastern parts of England as well as Wales. 4 to 6 Celsius first thing, where we've got the cloud cover, where we've got the clearer skies, all the freezing fog. Temperatures will be several degrees below freezing. So Northern Ireland, Scotland begin Wednesday similar to this morning. Frost widely. Dense fog patches, some of that fog persisting into the afternoon. Otherwise, crisp winter sunshine for much of northern UK. Further south, cloudy skies continue, although some brighter interludes will emerge across central parts. Highs here of 6 to 8 Celsius.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Still to come, dementia remains the UK's top cause of death. I actually didn't know that for 2023. We're going to be speaking to a doctor about what can be done to try and help tackle this dreadful disease, and it affects so many of us, doesn't it? Stay tuned to Breakfast this morning with Ben and Isabel.
I'm Emily Carver. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, joining us now is feng shui expert Karina Sophia, who's going to share some of the best ways to ensure that our homes are still feeling calm as well as beautifully decorated this Christmas time.
One of the feng shui myths is that feng shui is all about moving furniture, and it isn't at all. Oh. Well, there is a little bit of that. It is about the flow of energy, but it starts outside, so there's lots of different forms of feng shui. So what we're going to talk about today is one form called flying stars feng shui, and there's another one that's classical, and form feng shui starts outside. If a 5-year-old would walk past your house and be happy, then the energy will.
I love that.
So if a 5-year-old would like to see more, would like to come in and would touch anything and not get hurt, then it's a good thing and the energy is feeling good and wants to come in as well.
What about the light colours? Does that matter? Does that come into play?
Yes, there are different colours. Depending on the direction, the compass direction of your home, there are good colours that support the energy inside the home. So if your home is facing north, for instance, then it would be sitting south, and the inherent energy of the south is fire. So you want to have red or green, which is wood that fuels the fire, and that supports the inside of the home. Now, I just painted my door red a couple of days ago, and then I got this opportunity, so don't underestimate it. You want to decorate your tree with whatever you want to manifest. Whatever it is that you want to bring into your life. So this speaks for itself. It
Joy.
says joy.
Oh.
And it has a bell
I
on
like
it.
that idea. I can get on board with this. So you decorate your tree with things you'd like to see in your life.
Yes.
Okay.
So we're going to put some joy.
That would be nice.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back. Now, Alzheimer's UK have uncovered that dementia was the leading cause of death last year.
Yeah, that's news to me, actually.
Me too.
Data shows that over 75,000 people died in 2023 from dementia, with fears that our ageing population will see this crisis worsen.
The charity says the government's 10-year health plan should be used to future-proof NHS dementia services so the condition doesn't remain a death sentence.
Well, let's speak now to a GP and the Chief Executive of Doncaster Local Medical Council, Dr Dean Eggett, about all this. Good morning to you, Doctor. I think my first question has to be about this kind of magic wonder drug cure-all that we hear so much about, originally for diabetes, also the fat jab. But is it true that it also reduces the incidence of dementia? And if so, isn't this wonderful news?
You know, if I could answer that question, I think I'd be a millionaire because I'd be investing in stock in this. There are some hints that these new drugs that are used in weight loss are likely to help in a number of conditions, including heart problems and brain problems, liver problems, kidney problems. But quite frankly, we just don't know yet. What we do know, though, is that dementia is not one specific disease. It's a general decline in the brain. And that decline in the brain can be from a number of problems, including things like redness and swelling, inflammation, fatty tissue, general damage over a number of years. So if you look after your body really, really well, then of course your brain will be looked after too. So naturally it comes that, you know, if you have a drug that generally looks after the body, the brain may benefit from that as well.
Dr. Dean, just enlighten me about dementia and the diseases that follow. How much of it is hereditary? How much is it to do with, if anything, for example, diet? Can you explain the significance of both those things?
Sure. I think it's important to understand really that dementia isn't one disease. Actually, it's a collection of different diseases. So there's no real one answer to that. Dementia is a general decline in the brain's function over time. And there are 4, 5, 6 different sort of categories of dementia. One of the commonest, as you pointed out, is Alzheimer's type dementia, which has a genetic component to it. But there's also other types, such as vascular dementia, where you get little clots in the brain, such as like a heart attack. Kind of like a stroke, really, that slowly brings on a worsening condition of the brain. So yes, there are genetic parts to that, so much as that it helps, it's aided, by cholesterol problems, but also it's very much about lifestyle. Do you smoke? Do you drink a lot of alcohol? Do you generally look after your body and your nerves? So there's a bit of a mix of the two there.
Yeah, you've got to keep moving, haven't you? You've got to keep exercising as much as possible as well. I mean, we were just talking before you came on air with us, Doctor. Both of us have been touched by it. My grandmother had dementia. In your extended family, there was a case of it as well. And it terrifies us both, I have to say, because you are just left as a shadow of your former self. And I've really admired all the public commentary around Fiona Phillips, the TV presenter, who's been very honest about getting early onset dementia. But she's been involved in this sort of experimental trial, hasn't she, which there are lots of hopes could actually slow the pace of the disease. You know, are we getting to the stage where we are making breakthroughs with this?
We are slowly starting to make breakthroughs, yes. I mean, there are some startling statistics here. There's one particularly that scares me, that of those people born today, 1 in 3 are likely to develop dementia within their lifetime. This is a staggeringly large problem that costs the UK economy at the moment £35 billion per year.
Wow.
In the next 25 years is likely to cost the UK economy £70 billion. So you can see there is this huge rush in companies trying to develop dementia cures, which I don't personally believe that there will be, but treatments to at least slow the progression of the decline. If you think that just nerves don't talk to each other, how can we encourage them to talk better and get rid of some of that junk in between them? There must be quite a number of possible drugs out there yet to be found.
And Dr. Dean, of course, dementia and the diseases don't just affect the person suffering them. It's the immediate family, it's the friends, it's the mothers, the brothers, the sisters, the sons, the daughters. How much attention is being given to immediate family and friends when it comes to dealing with a loved one who's got dementia, and they're witnessing that person eventually, as Isabel said, just slowly lose themselves over the years?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Dementia is a disease of a family, really, and a community. David Cameron actually recognised this back in around 2012. He launched the Prime Minister's Challenge Fund, and that's one of the reasons, I think, why we're seeing an increase in diagnosis of dementia, because there was a massive push at the time to say, well, we're not spotting this and we're not helping people. So since 2012, the NHS has been working extraordinarily hard to get an earlier diagnosis and therefore an earlier support for the individual and their family members in caring for the condition. We're getting much better at that. But I have to be honest, we're not great.
No.
We need so much more support for individuals and family members with this condition, and we've got so far to go. So thanks really should go out to charities such as Alzheimer's UK to help support us in getting better at delivering this care. But we've got a long way to go.
Yeah, you're too right there. Dr. Dean Eggett, thanks very much indeed for talking to us this morning. I'm pretty sure that there will be lots of people watching us this morning who are being touched by Alzheimer's in their daily life, whether that be caring for someone or someone in their extended family. It really is a cruel disease.
It's terrifying, isn't it? We were just saying that you are faced with the prospect of you lose yourself.
Yeah. And you sort of, some of your most basic sort of worries as a person become exacerbated. In my grandmother's case, she was constantly worried that she'd lost something. So my last few years of grandma always had her nose in a handbag, squirreling around in there, trying to find something, because she was in this perpetual state of, I've lost something. You know, that horrible feeling when you think you've lost something precious to you. And poor grandma was just constantly feeling like that. It was really sad.
Were there early signs with your grandmother?
She always muddled names up. She'd go through every name in the family. She'd call me Edna, her next door neighbour. She'd call me Stephanie, my mum's name, and eventually get to me. But I do that.
Yeah.
I now do that. So I start thinking, oh my goodness, I'm going to be next. And also, night shifts are absolutely linked to
Oh no,
all
don't
of
say
this
that.
as well. And obviously, we get up at silly times, so I'm probably a prime candidate.
Well, you've been on this shift for how many years?
10 years, something like that. Yeah,
Oh,
too
gosh.
long.
Okay, yeah.
I'm actually 22. I just look 42.
You get away with it. You get away with it.
Thank you.
Right, every day we run our poll of the day, and today we're asking, should more funding go towards dementia care in Britain? We'll be bringing you the live results throughout the day, so make sure to stay tuned. And the final results will be announced later in Martin Daubney's show from 3 o'clock.
Yeah, and if you do want to cast your vote this morning, you just have to go to gbnews.com/poll.
OK, it's time now for the Great British Giveaway and your chance to become our biggest ever winner with an incredible £50,000 in tax-free cash.
Yeah, what a whopping amount of money. That would really make it a fantastic new year. Here are all the details you need to make it yours.
Imagine getting the call to tell you that you've won £50,000 in tax-free cash, our biggest cash prize of the year.
Wow, very good luck to you. 50 grand. I think I'll do a world cruise to kick off the new year.
Really?
Yeah, you? I asked you this, didn't I? What did you say? Oh, yeah, the Maldives.
Yeah, never been. It's on the bucket list.
There's hope yet.
We've been giggling reading the Your Says this morning. Thank you for getting in touch, because it's early in the morning. People taking the time to send their messages. There's one in particular that's made us giggle this morning.
Yes, one of you, Keep It Real, has said, I don't think Ben likes Isabel much. Neither do I. There's a power struggle going on with these two.
Unbelievable.
Is there?
And are you going to deny that you dislike me?
Well, I'm not sure about that, I'm joking. No, I love you, I love you. No,
There's no power struggle here.
Yeah, all good in the hood. Paul Coyte's here with the sport in just a tick. This is GB News Breakfast with Ben and Isabel. Back in a tick.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. Stena Line sailings remain suspended between Holyhead and Dublin because of an ongoing technical problem. In Cheshire, the A56 is closed in both directions along Chester Road at Preston Brook because of fallen power cables. In Ceredigion, the A44 remains closed each way just to the east of Pontywydd because of a fallen tree. Now, train services aren't running between Rugby and Milton Keynes Central because of an incident. In Monmouthshire, the A40 is closed each way off the A4143 at Abergavenny for emergency repairs. In London, the South Circular is closed each way at Clapham Park for an investigation. On the M26 in Kent, it's taking a quarter of an hour in westbound delays approaching the M25 because of roadworks. In Hampshire, the A343 is closed each way at Ashmansworth because of a fallen tree. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about?
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe.
Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Oh, I see all the supporters of me now coming out on your say.
All coming out the woodwork.
Yeah, someone said I'd eat you for breakfast.
Okay, as you've mentioned it, let me read this email on gbnews.com/GBViews@gbnews.com. Dear GB News, Isabel is a beautifully classy young woman.
Oh, thanks, Mum.
She's shining.
Anyway, Coit's here. He's the real class act.
Beautiful, classy young man, I think is what the words you were looking for there as well. West Ham 2, Wolverhampton Wanderers 1. See, this was going to be a battle between two clubs whose managers are on the brink. You've got Julian Lopetegui of West Ham, Gary O'Neill at Wolves. And the thing is that you get to a stage, you've probably never had this, you haven't had to worry about this too much. But when the team is... Yeah, because when your team is not doing... And this is a compliment coming to you here, and this is rarely that I will say nice things about Arsenal. But the thing is, it's rarely that you will have that situation where you've got a manager that you don't want to be at your club, and then you have that horrible thing where you want your own team to lose. And there are fans of both West Ham. I've spoken to West Ham fans, and I've spoken to Wolves fans as well that are going, you know what? I think we want to lose because then it will mean the manager goes. It's a difficult thing to be able to...
You say that. During Wenger's last year, many Arsenal fans were hoping we'd get beaten, so he'd go. And Unai Emery as well, actually.
Well, there you go. So the thing is, but you don't want to ever want your team to lose, but sometimes they're looking at the greater good. But anyway, so there are some West Ham fans. I'm not terribly happy that they actually did manage to win. But Jared Bowen got the winner. A lot about Mikel Antonio. Now, Mikel Antonio, of course, was in that car crash on Saturday. They warmed up in their number 9 shirts, which, by the way, they're going to auction for charity, which is for the NHS and Air Ambulance, which is nice. So there we are. So there's all the players there. They warmed up in their number 9 shirt. There was a good luck message that came. Also, they spoke to Mikel Antonio before the game. And also, when the winner was scored, the shirt was held up as well. Jared Bowen held up the shirt. So there we are as a tribute to him.
I saw that.
And also, on the 9th minute, everybody applauded. So he's doing OK. Honestly, but Isabel, do you think it's a bit too much then, you think? A little too much?
The 9th minute, come on now.
Because that's the number.
I know, I understand the reference. I just,
Yeah.
He'll be all right.
He'll be absolutely fine. But there was a bit of argy-bargy after the game as well. We do like a little argy-bargy from time to time.
No, I don't like an argy-bargy.
Do you during a game?
On the football field?
Yeah.
On the pitch, but not afterwards.
See, the thing is, most professional sports journalists would say, oh, you don't want to see that. We don't want to see that.
Yes, you do.
It's quite, it can be quite.
It was a great game. I felt sorry for Wolves. They were denied a penalty, which in my book, I mean, I'm no expert, but I thought it was clear cut.
I thought it was as well. But, when the luck's not with you... So you've got Mario Lemina clash with Sean Derry, who, by the way... Sean is a big GB News viewer. Morning, Sean.
Morning,
We're
Sean.
on your side, Sean. Good luck, Sean. But he intervened when Mario Lemina was clashing with West Ham players. It all got a bit uncomfortable. So you can see there's pressure. There's a huge amount of pressure at Wolves at the moment. So that's how things are going. So whether Gary O'Neill is safe, we will have to see. Whether he actually sees Christmas as Wolves manager, we'll have to see over the next couple of days.
OK, great stuff. Thank you, Paul.
OK.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that game last night. I wouldn't normally watch Wolves West Ham.
You were up late, weren't you? You should have been in bed by half-time.
A wedding anniversary dinner. So
and you were watching the footy.
Well, no, we popped out for a meal.
Such a romantic.
We popped out for a very quick meal and I said, look, we have to be very quick because I need to go home and sleep by 8 o'clock. got in and then saw the games on, so I stayed up till maybe 10ish.
Yeah.
I've only
Honestly,
slept
what a
4
lucky
hours.
lady.
Yeah.
So Gary O'Neill, let's hope he sees his job, and let's hope you see another year as a married man as well.
Indeed.
So, you know, who's going to be under more pressure?
Right, from your happy marriage to another happy couple, Claire Muldoon, Andy Williams, they're taking us through the papers in just a moment. See you then.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis, and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Australian chef David Thompson is opening a new restaurant, Long Chim. The name, which translates roughly as come and try, already has locations in Sydney, Perth and Dubai, and previously operated in Melbourne and Singapore. It marks a return to London for Thompson, whose Belgravia haunt Naarm closed in 2012, but that earned him accolades including, in 2002, the first Michelin star awarded to a Thai restaurant. So you've mentioned Bangkok there. What is your love for Thai food? Describe to us why you think Thai food is such a great cuisine.
It's endlessly complex and satisfying. It just resonates on the palate. For me, as a cook, it offers a challenge. And the way that you cook it is you chase taste. You don't follow a recipe, you follow your sense of taste. And so with all these dishes that you'll taste today, but also in the restaurant that we're opening, it's all about a sequence of taste and seasoning that has some balance.
What is this dish?
This is something called gengari gung, which is an aromatic curry of prawns.
Lovely looking prawns, yes.
They're not too bad. And it's with something strange called water bamboo, which we found up in Chinatown just the other day. And it's a perfect accompaniment. I'll just take a little.
Yes. Describe that perfect accompaniment to me again. Water
bamboo.
What is it? Water bamboo, yeah.
And you would not know of it, because I didn't know of it that much either. And it tastes like a little bit of like young coconut meat. So it's perfect with these prawns and this curry. And what you need to have with this curry, because this is the way that Thai food works, an interplay of flavours. This little cucumber salad on the side, and that helps to bring out the spice and the sweetness and the savoury quality.
I must say, all of this looks so lovely.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I've done it.
Hello, welcome back. What were you kicking out? I missed that. Oh, not suitable.
Yeah, we were just talking about patron saints. You know, Claire and I were just having some chats about...
we were talking about my son's name, Jude, and I said that he's the patron saint of lost causes. St Jude is, of course.
Yeah.
We're joined now by Andy Williams and Claire Muldoon in the studio to go through the papers. Good morning.
Good morning.
What should we start with?
Let's start with the NHS told to treat sickest and to forget about targets, Andy. This is the front of the Times this morning.
Yeah, so Wes Streeting has been speaking and saying, well, sort of contradicting the government's message from last week, really. So last week we had...
doesn't he, these days?
Well, yeah, we had the target on health among the announcements made last week was that 92% of patients will receive treatment within 18 weeks of being referred, which is really just restoring what used to be the case 10 years ago, and before that, that was the expected standard. That target has not been met for the last 9 years. But Wes Streeting is now saying, well, we should just prioritise the sickest. Now, obviously, that makes sense on one level, but it seems to be a mixed message versus what the government was saying last week, which is we've got this top-down target, and that dictates everything the NHS should be doing. I mean, it's in the context of the annual winter crisis that we're having, and a health service that's just in a complete mess. Every single
what crisis?
number
What
stat you see is
midwinter crisis are we in the middle of?
Well, this is sort of the point I'm making is it a crisis if it happens every year? You know, it's just the regular, lots of people going to hospital with flu, and the service can't deal with it.
Was there not a report? Was there not a report yesterday that said that if you think you're having a heart attack or a stroke, take yourself to hospital. Don't bother calling an ambulance.
I mean, that is outrageous.
That really is outrageous. And yet, your question today to your viewers at GB News is, should more funding be put into care for dementia? That's a bit of a... Of course it should, but where is all this money coming from?
Well, 14 billion in foreign aid, 22 billion on a carbon capture scheme that nobody likes, even eco-zealots and...
I mean, for the NHS, no, I get your point completely, and I'm not for putting all this money into foreign aid at all. I think we need to capture that and readdress it. But Starmer stood up and said last week about reform for the country. He was going to do this, that and that. Nothing is happening. I can't see a way for it. And he also didn't mention defence, and nor did he mention immigration.
Well, that's the problem, Andy, isn't it? You can talk about the NHS needs more funding, we need to do this and that, and tinker with the books, but until you address the immigration problem, it's just going to be a black hole of cash. I mean, Angela Rayner at the weekend, she was talking about the need to build 1.5 million new houses, which they're going to do, and she was asked by Trevor Phillips, well, you also want to welcome 2.5 million more migrants into the country, so where are they going to live? And she was absolutely skewered. So this is the problem with Labour. They don't seem to... They identify a problem in one area, yet ignore the immigration problem, which, for me, is connected to all of it.
Well, I think that's one facet of the problem, but the reality is that there are millions and millions of people net who've come in over the last few years, and they're not going anywhere, and nor should they be. Those are the rules. They were entitled to come to this country. They're now here. That's not Labour's fault. That happened under the last government's watch. Labour is being left with the legacy and the absolute mess of all of the problems that the last government caused.
But they were very well aware of those problems before they came into power. Yeah, but we all were. But they don't have a plan. They're the ones that have been elected now to be in government. What, sorry? They're the ones... patron saint of... but the fact is, they are in power and they're not doing anything to help us. They're giving no hope. Don't even need to bring up the lighting of the Christmas tree again, do I? And it's just ridiculous. I'm sick of them. I really am.
The problem is these are huge, complex, intractable problems that are going to take years and years and years to make any headway on. And I know that people are sick of the doom and gloom.
And all they've done is commission more reports, more everything, and these reports will not be ready for another 2 years. We're already, how many days in to this government?
5 months or so.
5 months or so. So we won't be getting another general election until 2028.
To be fair, the Lord Darcy report into the state of the NHS was about
very
9
quick.
weeks.
Was very quick.
So let's look at the Met Police weighing into this row about funding shortfalls for officers. The head of the Metropolitan Police Force making quite stark admission that they're going to have to lay off 2,300 officer numbers by up to 2,300 and could cut an extra 400 staff.
Yeah, because it's based on a funding shortfall of £450 million laid out in its annual report. Now, Mark Rowley has said often that there's a problem in the Met of recruitment, there's a problem with retention, and there's a problem with public opinion and public perception of the Met Police. That actually extends over all of the country. Lots of different police forces are finding exactly the same problems. And yet, what did Starmer say last week? He wants to increase the Met or the increased police force by, was it 18,000 or something?
13,000.
13,000. It's not going to happen. And we've been speaking in this programme about the difficulty of recruiting police officers, and often not until the point where they actually turn up for first service of duty that they actually meet someone that face-to-face. Everything has been done remotely. They don't even get measured up for their suits, their uniforms correctly. It is just a sad, sad indictment that nothing is working in this country and there is no clear and present route to it working.
Yeah, and I think, as you alluded to there, half the problem is that there's very hard-working coppers all across the country, men and women, but there is that growing lack of respect from towards the police.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately.
Bobby's on the beat, Neighbourhood Watch,
Well, and actually, of these 13,000 that Starmer announced last week, only 3,000 of them are going to be fully warranted officers anyway. So.
Okay.
Big pressures there. Let us know your thoughts on all of the topics we've been discussing this morning. We're going to have more for you at 7 o'clock, but in the meantime, here's Aidan McGibbon with your Tuesday forecast.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. High pressure in charge today, a stark contrast to last week's stormy weather. Cloudy for many, but frost and fog prevalent across northern parts of the country. Scotland, Northern Ireland, seeing some low temperatures as we begin the day, and some dense fog patches could cause tricky driving conditions, particularly through the central belt, and that fog could persist into the afternoon in one or two spots. Otherwise, sunny skies for Scotland and Northern Ireland. The Northern Isles affected by cloud and rain, and some showery rain coming into the southeast of England on a brisk northeasterly breeze. That's going to make it feel cold, 7 or 8 Celsius in the south, but below freezing where any fog patches persist. And that fog will tend to reform and develop more widely once again into the evening as the sun goes down, especially through the central belt, but also across many Highland glens and into Northern Ireland as well. Some dense fog patches forming widely after dark. Meanwhile, clear skies will lead to sub-zero temperatures once again for Scotland, Northern Ireland, parts of northwest England and West Wales overnight, but a lot of cloud remains for the rest of England and Wales, and again some showery rain and a brisk breeze coming in from the northeast will keep temperatures above freezing in the south and southeast. But it's going to be a grey night across many southern and eastern parts of England as well as Wales. 4 to 6 Celsius first thing, where we've got the cloud cover, where we've got the clearer skies, all the freezing fog. Temperatures will be several degrees below freezing. So Northern Ireland, Scotland begin Wednesday similar to this morning. Frost widely, dense fog patches, some of that fog persisting into the afternoon. Otherwise, crisp winter sunshine for much of northern UK. Further south, cloudy skies continue, although some brighter interludes will emerge across central parts. Highs here of 6 to 8 Celsius.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holdings. Stena sailings remain suspended between Holyhead and Dublin because of an ongoing technical problem. In Ceredigion, the A44 remains closed in both directions east of Pontywydd because of a fallen tree. That's been closed since Saturday. In Monmouthshire, the A40 is closed in both directions west of Abergavenny for emergency repairs. Buses replaced trains between Watford Junction and St Albans Abbey. That's because of a faulty train. In London, the South Circular is closed in both directions along Poinders Road at Clapham Park for an investigation. On the M26 in Kent, it's taking nearly half an hour in westbound queues approaching the M25 because of roadworks. And in Hampshire, the A343 is closed each way near Ashmansworth after a number of trees blew down in the storms.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
It's our festive treat to you. Your chance to win an incredible £50,000 in tax-free cash. Our biggest ever Great British giveaway. Good luck.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Nightmare commute? Kick it up a gear with GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+ and on the GB News app. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with GB News Radio. We are the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. A landmark new agreement between the UK and Germany to stop the people smuggling gangs.
That's as the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, pauses all decisions on Syrian asylum claims.
Will the new changes help finally put an end to illegal crossings in the English Channel?
Well, they haven't given any targets on migration. They scrapped the Rwanda plan, but they say that this new deal with Germany will help them stop the boats. I'll bring you more details shortly.
Another Tory defection, billionaire Nick Candy is the latest to join Reform as the party's new treasurer, pledging to help make Nigel Farage Prime Minister.
A 26-year-old suspect at the centre of last week's health CEO shooting in New York has been dramatically arrested at a McDonald's in the United States and has now been charged.
Farmers prepare for another day of protest as the government's ignoring their pleas over changes to inheritance tax.
And despite the issues piling up at home, the Prime Minister's showing no sign of ditching his jet-setting ways just yet. But he's certainly not the only one. We'll be debating whether all our politicians are spending a little too much time overseas.
Despite increasing medical advances, dementia remains the UK's leading cause of death last year. That's as researchers are urging the government to take more action.
And Prince Harry's latest Netflix venture premieres today, Polo. But will it flop like the couple's previous streaming offerings?
Champions League action tonight with Celtic, Liverpool and Aston Villa all playing away. Referee David Coote is now ex-referee David Coote. But the world of sport will surely stop today so we can all watch Meghan and Harry's documentary on polo.
High pressure has returned, a stark contrast to the storminess of last week, but not necessarily dry and sunny for everyone. There will be some showery rain and even some dense fog about this morning. I'll have the full forecast coming up shortly.
It's just gone 7:01. I'm Isabel Webster.
And I'm Ben Leo, and this is GB News Breakfast.
You mean you're not going to stop and watch this documentary about polo? This is the first documentary by Prince Harry that I actually want to watch.
polo.
Why wouldn't you go for a
you played?
picnic? I've not played, but I've watched a lot. It's actually apparently quite easy as it goes. Horse riding's obviously quite hard to compete, but polo ponies are very well trained, and you basically just ride them with your thighs.
What do they call the sticks they bosh
Mallet.
with?
Mullet.
A mallet.
So you wear a mullet and you play with a mallet. Yeah.
Are they heavy?
They're like a croquet stick.
Swing like that.
Yeah.
And then you've got 2 goals, 4 horses.
You'd love it.
I love horse racing, so I could probably get into it. I've never been.
It's very sociable, and you go and you walk on the pitch and go and stroke the ponies.
You sure it's a pitch?
Yeah.
But listen, it's more. It's not the sport, though, is it, Isabel? Come on. It's not the sport.
What is it?
What is it?
Is it the polo players?
No, I'm not saying that at all. It's the high society.
No, because where I used to live in
polo.
London, we had Ham Polo Club, and it was that's such a misconception about the horse riding community. Yeah, you get a total mix of people who are obviously you get a few lardy-dars in there, but you've also got country people who are into horse riding.
Right, working class polo players.
100%.
Really?
Well, not always the players, but definitely involved with the horses and the livery and all of that.
Yeah. They're all Argentinian hunks, though, aren't they?
There's quite a few of those, yeah.
And also, The only person I can ever remember that was actually into polo, she's honestly raising her eyebrows at me. Kenny Jones, the drummer with The Who and the Small Faces.
Yeah.
He was into polo.
All right, was that okay
That's
then?
the only one, but I always just thought polo was never really something that I could find myself into.
You're not going to watch the documentary, you're going to watch it?
I'll have a look, yeah, I'll have a look.
Probably not, no. I'll be up for going to a polo game, though, if there's a game you want to take me to, and I'll check it out.
Anytime. Cowdrey Park in Sussex, gorgeous.
Are there any traditional sort of... at Wimbledon you get, obviously, the strawberries and cream.
The big matches, yeah, you get all the ones. Just basically check out whatever Prince William's doing. He's always playing polo. You can go and watch him anytime.
Okay. All right.
There's always the food that they have at polo. Champagne and foie gras. That's usually what they do, isn't it?
Boodles sponsor matches.
Of course they do.
Yeah,
I might just stick to the non-league football. Okay. Down at Worthing.
Don't lie. You're going to be at the next polo match. Quaffing champagne.
Man of the people, me.
Right, the UK and Germany have agreed a landmark action plan to tackle small boat crossings.
Yes, the plan means Germany will now make it a specific criminal offence to facilitate migrant smuggling to the UK.
Well, the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, says that the deal will boost border security and, she says, save lives.
Where the gangs operate across borders, law enforcement needs to operate across borders as well. And that is why this joint action plan is so important. This is groundbreaking work in order to allow us to share intelligence, to better share information, to be able to strengthen our actions, strengthen law enforcement and powers to be able to go after the criminal gangs and their supply chains and their illicit finance as well.
OK, but the big question is, how will it work? And will it work at all? The Shadow Home Secretary, Chris Philp, doesn't think so, saying the plans don't go far enough.
We've got him on in about 20 minutes, so we'll talk to him some more about all of this. But in the meantime, let's speak to our political correspondent, Catherine Forster. Look, the government will be really pleased to be announcing this today. I suppose the pressure will be whether or not it actually delivers anything, tangible.
Well, yes, indeed, because the Home Secretary saying this cannot go on. But the fact is that people have been crossing the Channel illegally on small boats for years. The numbers are up this year compared to last year. More people have died in the Channel this year than for many years. So it's currently going in the wrong direction. So, yes, the government very keen to talk about this, saying that Germany is changing the law, that they will be cracking down on boats, equipment that's used and stored in Germany and taken through Germany, and also on removing posts from social media, encouraging people to make this trip. Separately to this, there is a meeting of what they call the Calais Group in London today. That's France, Germany, the Netherlands and Belgium, ministers and police bosses talking about how they can crack down on these gangs together. The previous government, of course, made a lot of focus on a deterrent on the Rwanda plan, which they said would deter people. Of course, it was never up and running because the new government came along and scrapped it. Now, Chris Philp, the Shadow Home Secretary, the Conservatives say that without a deterrent, people will still come. The government thinks that they can stop the gangs, but my goodness, that's an absolutely huge task. I guess we will see next year if this approach is going to bear fruit.
Tell us about the situation with the asylum claims being paused for Syrians.
Yeah, so like France and Germany, the British government have now paused Syrian asylum applications because, of course, most of those are because of the Assad regime. He has now fallen. He's gone to Russia. So it may well be that quite a number of Syrians here will, in fact, want to go home. But at the same time, as the Foreign Secretary has emphasised, it could also be that a number of jihadists try to come here now. And the former boss of MI6 saying there is a big security threat potentially with the fall of the Assad regime. So the Home Office pausing applications for the time being.
Thanks, Catherine. Appreciate that.
OK, in other news, another day and another defection to reform. This time, the property tycoon and the husband of Holly Valance, which always makes me want to go
Yeah, what was the song called? Kiss Kiss.
Kiss Kiss, Kiss, yeah.
Kiss,
it is, of course, Nick Candy. He has officially left the Conservative Party. He's joined Reform UK and he's going to be their treasurer, which is good, considering he's
got
loaded.
a few bob.
He knows,
He's got a couple of quid. I think with his brother, something like 1.5 billion, is it?
That's right,
net worth?
yeah, him and Christian.
Anyway, Nick Candy, he accuses the Conservatives of making too many broken promises and breaching trust.
Well, let's get the thoughts of the former advisor to Boris Johnson, Oscar Redrop. I have to be honest, when I heard this news this morning, I actually thought he was already a paid-up member of Reform, because I've seen him at so many of their big sort of conferences and, you know, when Nigel Farage was announced as leader, I actually thought he was already there. You made the point, he'd actually said earlier in the year that he was donating to Labour. So he's been a bit politically homeless for a while, honing in on reform. How much of a blow is this to the Conservatives?
It's a financial blow. It's definitely reflective of where the Tory party is in terms of the desperate need for money. And I know that's controversial for people and people don't like to hear it, but, you know, a political party does need money to drive its agenda and actually just get out there, deliver leaflets, campaign. It won't come as a surprise, though, to CCHQ, which is the campaigning organisation of the Tory party, or the Tory party hierarchy. He has been kind of in reform circles for a while now, flirting with the idea of it. But there is a drip now, and there will be some people who've come out in support of reform that the Tory party won't care a jot about, to be frank. I'm not going to name any names. And Nick Candy, as I said, won't be a surprise, but it shows probably it's a kind of a slingshot into the future of the problems of the Tory party. They have political problems, they're going to have cut-through problems, and they're going to have money problems. They're going to need the financial backing to go out there and really take the charge to the Labour Party. There are some real wild polls out there about how, you know, reform are streaks ahead. I wouldn't pay too much attention to that personally, but you cannot deny, you know, the direction of travel, the momentum shift. You know, I was you know, a media special advisor to Boris, and, you know, the media airwaves and the noise that the Reform Party are making, and the Tories, they're just, you know, it's a quiet place.
What was Boris's view of Nigel at the time when you worked for him? What did he say to you in private about Mr Farage?
Well, look, the reality is, I mean, they have similarities in terms of their kind of that cut through, and
they both were able to
they
class, which is very rare, I think.
They do, and, you know, Farage wasn't quite the feature, you know, on the political stage in this country when Boris was PM, and I don't think that's a coincidence. I think
well, he did. Sorry to interject. He did step down at the election in 2019 in lots of seats. If Boris promised to Brexit done, quote unquote. So he did play a pivotal role in getting elected.
In that sense, he played a huge part in the 2019 election. And I think actually Boris and Farage, I think even though they probably disagree on a lot, they might not get on in many ways, but I would imagine, I don't know this, but I'd imagine there is a shared respect for one another.
Boris to reform, then?
I don't think that's ever going to happen.
But I mean, but seriously, the odds on Farage becoming Prime Minister seem to be narrowing literally by the day, and, you know, it seems a huge stretch to go from 5 MPs to be able to have a parliamentary majority.
Yeah.
Could in the future an ailing Conservative Party possibly do some sort of merger? Could they work together in a coalition? You know, is the idea of the Conservatives ever being in power again? Even under Kemi Badenoch, we've had people on your say this morning saying she's a disappointment already. She's not cutting through in the way they hoped. You know, are they finished as in the entity that we've known them so far?
Look, I think the Tory party being quite quiet at the moment is not actually a bad thing. I mean, you saw it's hilarious. When we didn't even have a leader and we were doing and saying nothing, you just saw the Tory party's poll ratings just kind of going through the roof. Yeah. Sometimes doing nothing's actually OK, particularly when your opponent, like the Labour Party, make loads of mistakes. Moving forward, however, in terms of how Reform and the Tory party work together, I mean, I think that over time, in the years to come, is going to be a huge kind of political debate, huge political debate on the right. Okay. And Keir Starmer, is incredibly unpopular, and, you know, the right are going to have to work together, I think, ultimately.
Might be right. OK, Oscar,
thanks, Oscar,
as always, thank you.
Thanks so much, guys.
Right, the Sussexes' latest Netflix show, Polo, is out today.
Yeah, the reality show, which the couple both executive produced, will follow elite global polo players as they compete in the US Open Championships.
But after their last Netflix offerings flopped and American Riviera Orchard stalled, will this latest programme be any different?
Well, joining us now is royal commentator Angela Levin, not the Sussexes' biggest fan, it has to be said. Good morning, as always, to you, Angela. Will you be watching Polo?
Well, I will for work, but otherwise not. I wanted to see it before because it said it was coming on today, but it actual programme hasn't started. But I saw the sort of up-to-date thing that's very odd. It's called, they say, executive produced by, and then it's by Harry and Meghan. Executive produced. Does that mean they're just doing little bits at the end to please them? Or have they really done the whole thing?
I suspect it means they can get stuff cut out that they don't like. That's probably the role of the exec producer. And you see it with the Kardashians, that the momager, Kris Kardashian's always listed as an exec producer because she goes, don't want that bit in there, take that out. So it's ultimately about a little bit of editorial control, I suppose, over your brand.
Right, OK. But I think in any case that if you've never done anything like that, you might have been in umpteen things, but actually being a producer is very, very different. And I can't see how Meghan could do that, but she knows very little about polo except trying to hold on to the winning cup.
Well,
go on.
Sorry, Angela, I was going to say she's got more experience than somebody like myself. How much are they getting paid for this for this offering? Is it part of the wider Netflix deal, or are they being paid specifically for this one?
Yeah, it's part of the wider Brexit deal, yes. But I think that they're getting really fed up with it. I mean, it's very odd because you don't see them at all. And actually, you know, what you get is Figueira, who I don't know who he is, but you know he plays polo, and he says it's, you know, it's a lifetime. You know, we eat, we sleep, we breathe polo. And then some woman comes in and says, "Oh, but they're very sexy. They're smelly and sweaty. You know, they're really nice."
Angela, stop it. I can't wait to watch it. I've got to be honest with you. It sounds good. But shall we move on to something maybe a bit more suitable for 7:15? The Princess of Wales. She's been shortlisted. She's in the top 10 for Times Person of the Year. Do you fancy her chances?
Well, I can only hope. I think she's so marvellous, and she's gone through so much. And seeing her at the with all the family for the first time, and she was going around talking to everybody, looking sensational. You really hope so, because I think it's also not that she's done so much this year, but she's actually behaved so brilliantly, and she's spoken so honourably and honestly that I think it's she does deserve it. But there are some other people. Elon is there, and I think that he could easily snatch it from her. But even if she doesn't, we think she's wonderful, so it's okay, isn't it?
I agree, Angela, absolutely.
Thanks, Angela. Appreciate your time. Thank you. When is the winner of the Times Person of the Year announced? Do you know?
I don't actually know the answer to that. We'll find out.
I'll Google it very quickly.
Yeah.
That made me laugh. Angela Levin talking about
sweaty,
sexy polo.
Yeah, with a sort of animated voice.
Always good
for a
for a
whole
laugh.
different side to Angela. Anyway, let's take a look at some of the other stories making the headlines this morning. And 26-year-old Luigi Mangione has been arrested and charged overnight in connection with the fatal shooting of that US healthcare CEO, Brian Thompson. Mr. Thompson was shot dead last week on a Manhattan street in broad daylight in what's believed to have been a targeted assassination. The suspect was arrested at a Pennsylvania McDonald's and was then quickly arrested after being recognised by staff. According to police officials, he was found carrying a handwritten manifesto which was criticising healthcare companies.
The Prime Minister has said Britain and its allies must be intensely focused on the transition to a new regime in Syria, and that's amid fears of a resurgent Islamic State. It comes as the UK has paused all Syrian asylum claims.
And as we've just been discussing with Angela, the Princess of Wales is one of the 10 people shortlisted for Time Person of the Year. She joins, again, as Angela mentioned, Elon Musk, but also Donald Trump, Kamala Harris, Benjamin Netanyahu, and Yulia Navalnaya, among others. Princess Catherine is being hailed by the magazine for starting a conversation around privacy as well as health for public figures.
You fancy Yulia for that to win, don't you?
I'm all for Yulia or the Princess of Wales. Those would be my votes. I think it's unlikely Benjamin Netanyahu will. I think it's been too controversial, really, this year. Where do you stand on... You'd probably be up for a bit of Trump to win that. You're definitely not a Kamala...
What makes you say that,
Kamala Harris
supporter? Yeah, Kamala's on the list, isn't she?
Kamala's on the list, she is indeed.
Why? I'm not just saying this because she's a Democrat, but why is she on the list? I mean, she lost the election.
Yeah. Good
Any
question.
ideas?
No.
Got to make a case for her?
I would probably suggest it's time trying to be balanced. I don't know. They just don't want to alienate their Democrat readership, possibly.
Yeah.
I'd be as cynical as that. Can I just mention, because it's been annoying me all morning, we started that bulletin there with the news that Luigi Mangioni's been arrested for shooting, allegedly. He's been arrested anyway, shooting the suspect last week, the CEO of a healthcare company. Fascinating front page from the Mail here, where they describe him as, and I quote, hot assassin sensation, and they picture him with his six-pack out. I do think that's a really strange angle for someone who is accused of committing murder in broad daylight. What do you think about that? Is it even relevant that this person is remotely attractive? I don't know.
Not really, but it sells papers, doesn't it?
It sells papers.
It's a nice picture of a good-looking guy.
This morning, but it's just, I don't think I've ever seen that before.
I guess the story is he's from a very well-off family. He's got a very good education. He seemingly had it all. He's got a great body.
Is that unlike normal murderers?
Well, I mean, yeah, I'd say so. Right, anyway, time now for the Great British Giveaway. Bit of a gear change, and your chance to become our biggest ever winner with an incredible £50,000 in tax-free cash.
Here's how it could be yours.
Imagine getting the call to tell you that you've won £50,000 in tax-free cash, our biggest cash prize of the year. Good luck.
Still to come, we'll be speaking with Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp about the small boats crisis and indeed this new deal between the Labour government and Germany to apparently smash the gangs. Back in a tick.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about?
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe.
Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. We're joined now by the Shadow Home Secretary, Chris Philp, who joined us live from Westminster. A very good morning to you. We've been quoting you all morning, casting aspersions on this announcement from the government about their deal with Germany to try and smash the gangs. It was news to me, actually, that because we are outside the EU, it's actually not even illegal for Germany to... It's not illegal, technically, to facilitate people smuggling if people are leaving Germany to come to this country. So that seems an obvious thing for us to tighten up on, or the Germans.
Good morning. Well, look, it's something we've been working on, I know, in government, which is obviously now borne fruit. But it's a bit of a cheek of the Labour government to be crowing about this when they are the ones who actually voted against life sentences for people smugglers when they were in opposition. We tabled a law, the Nationality and Borders Act, giving life sentences for people smuggling, and Yvette Cooper and the Labour Party voted against it. The other thing worth saying is it would be naive, to be honest, to think that this is going to solve the migrant and small boat crisis, because as the National Crime Agency themselves have said, you need a deterrent to stop people crossing the channel. Law enforcement alone is not enough. Now, we had a deterrent, the Rwanda scheme, and the Labour government cancelled it before it had even started. It was due to start, the first flight was due to take off in late July. They cancelled it. We now have no deterrent. And as a consequence, small boat crossings since the election are 18% higher than the same period last year, which shows that this Labour government is failing on migration because they cancelled the deterrent, which we know would have worked. And we know it would have worked not just because the National Crime Agency have said that, but also Australia did something similar about 10 years ago when they had a small boat crisis. They ran a thing called Operation Sovereign Borders, which included removing people. In their case, it was an island called Nauru. In the Pacific, it wasn't Rwanda, but the principle was the same, and it worked. The Australians stopped those small boats, but Labour, as I say, cancelled Rwanda before it even started, and small boats are up 18% as a result.
I guess
and this is not going to change that, I'm afraid.
I guess the difference with Australia, Chris, is they intercepted boats in the water and put them into safe lifeboat-style vessels before sending them off. The difference here is we're welcoming people into the UK, and then your intention was, as in your government, was to then pack them off to Rwanda. Can I just clarify here? You said that this deal with Germany was first tabled or introduced under a Conservative government. Is that right?
Well, it was under discussion. I mean, it was actually the issue has been one that's been around for a while, and this question has been discussed with the German government for some time. This is not a new thing which the Labour government suddenly noticed. It's been getting discussed for quite a while, and of course, if you read it carefully, the German government have said they intend to legislate to do this, which is obviously welcome, but that's going to take them quite a long time to do. There's a German election coming up in a couple of months' time. And of course, the migrant crisis is happening today, and it's getting worse, up by 18%, as I said, year on year, because Labour scrapped the Rwanda deterrent before it even started.
Well, except you could argue, given what you're just telling us there, that it was up for discussion, but your government failed to get it over the line, and that this is a win for Labour. And they'll point out that actually they have, in terms of illegal crossings, returned 9,400 people, including the largest number ever returned on one flight, and that asylum returns are up 50% in the last 12 months compared to the previous year. Just on the issue of the deterrent as well, because you talk about how the Rwanda scheme was there and would have worked, and yet why is it, if you stand by that philosophy, is Cammy Babe not pursuing it anymore?
Well, hang on. So 2 points. Firstly, on returns. So of those people they returned, only about, in the first 3 months of the Labour government, only about 500 of those returns related to small boats. And in that same 3-month period, well over 10,000 people crossed. And in fact, that number of small boat returns in the first 3 months of a Labour government was actually down on the last 3 months of the last Conservative government. So they have nothing at all to crow about there. On the question of the Rwanda deterrent, so Kemi and I are of one mind. We both agree that we need a deterrent-style scheme. I've called on the government to restore the Rwanda scheme immediately because their approach is clearly not working. Small boats are going up. Now, unfortunately, it's going to be 4.5 years before there's a general election, and who knows if the Rwandan government are still going to be available to do a deal in 4.5 years' time. But Kemi and I agree, if it's not Rwanda, it needs to be something very similar to Rwanda. But what we're both calling on Labour to do immediately is restore that Rwanda scheme, because the fact they cancelled it before it even started means we have no deterrent. The National Crime Agency says we need a deterrent, and boat crossings have gone up under Labour compared to last year as a result.
Yeah, well, I don't think they're going to do that, Chris, are they? But in terms of the Conservatives' approach, why don't you just commit to doing what Australia did? You've mentioned it yourself this morning. Why can't we just do it? Why don't you be bold and take the big leap and commit to intercepting boats in the water safely, putting them into decent lifeboat vessels and sending them to an offshore processing site?
Yeah, well, the difference, obviously, between Australia and here is between Calais and Dover, the territorial water is contiguous, it joins, whereas the Australians have hundreds of miles of international waters where they can intercept, so the geography is different. But what the Australians did, I've studied Operation Sovereign Borders very carefully. It ran about 10 years ago when Australia had a similar problem. About 50,000, they called them IMAs, illegal maritime arrivals, were crossing from Indonesia towards Australia, and a critical part of Operation Sovereign Borders was removing the migrants in the boats to this island called Nauru. And pretty quickly, the deterrent, and they did far more of that than they did of the turnarounds, and the deterrent effect of that very quickly, like within a matter of a few months, like 3 or 4 months, stopped the illegal maritime arrivals completely, because the people realised there's no point in trying to get to Australia if you just end up in Nauru. And in fact, they only had to send about 3,000, I think it was, people there before it stopped the crossings entirely. So you don't need to send 50,000 people to either Nauru or to Rwanda to stop the boats. You just do it for 2 or 3 months, and people pretty soon realise there is no point crossing the channel, and it just stops. And that is why it was such a massive mistake of the Labour government to cancel the Rwanda deterrent before it even started, because they are a weak government who are not willing to take the action necessary.
OK, I just want to ask you quickly, before we let you go, about Syria. The government's pausing asylum decisions on applications for Syria for 2 reasons. One, because obviously they're not yet clear what they could possibly be returning people to. Obviously, Assad's gone, but we don't quite yet know what Gilani represents, or indeed the new administration there. But also there is this fear of terrorists and jihadists coming into this country. Do you agree with this pause, and is the right course of action?
Yeah, well, I called for a pause before the government even did it yesterday. Yeah, it's quite right they've suspended asylum decisions. Germany, Austria, France, I think, have done it as well. And I called for it early yesterday, and the government then, a few hours later, did it. And of course, as soon as Syria is safe, we should be actually returning people to Syria. We should not be accommodating people here. If their home country becomes safe, we should actually be returning people. And that should happen once Syria is safe again. And on the point about returning jihadis, that is a really serious issue. There are, I think, quite a number of British people that were resident in Britain who went over to Syria to fight with jihadis. We've got to make sure they don't come back. If they're not citizens, we can simply refuse entry. But even if they are citizens, and in particular if they have dual citizenship or a basis on which they can claim dual citizenship, we can stop them returning as well, as the last Conservative government successfully did with Shamima Begum, and that survived a legal challenge in the court. So the last Conservative government took robust action, and I call on the current Labour government to do the same and make sure these jihadis do not come back here.
OK, Chris Philp, Shadow Home Secretary, thank you for your time this morning. Yeah, there was a couple of lads from down my way in Sussex, a family, 3 brothers, went to join al-Nusra Front in Syria. British citizens, a big headache for the government. What do we do with these people when they try and come back?
A lot of the foreign fighters are still incarcerated, though, in Kurdish-controlled northern Syria, and there isn't any risk of those because the prisons haven't been emptied in the same way they have around Damascus and Aleppo. But still, let's see how things play out. I think the government's absolutely right to pause and just have a little moment of reflection before making any big decisions.
Makes a change for once. Anyway, the Prime Minister is in Cyprus this morning, the final stop on his 3-day trip to the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia and Cyprus today.
Well, this actually marks his 15th overseas trip since becoming Prime Minister in July. But it's not just the Prime Minister, of course. Cabinet ministers and opposition MPs also have been pretty jet-set around the world.
Yeah, they seem to like a jolly. To debate this now, we're joined by British anarchist Dr Lisa McKenzie and the Director of Research at the Adam Smith Institute, Max Marlowe. Good morning to you both. Lisa, we'll start with you. I think there was a stat a few weeks ago saying that the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, had taken the most overseas trip out of any Prime Minister in recent decades in the first 6 months or so of his tenure. Do you get the feeling he likes a jaunt abroad?
I think it's more than a jaunt abroad. Apparently, he's spent over 6 weeks away from the country since July. I think he definitely likes grandstanding on the international stage, and I think that is because he's not always welcome on the national stage. He's choosing his audience, which is not the British public, unfortunately.
There's always 2 schools of thought, though, isn't there? Because, yes, a lot of PMs like to, as you say, grandstand on the international stage, but it also leaves a goal open at home and often can undermine your position there. So it is also risky. But is it not the case, Max Marlowe, that actually we're living in a particularly globally insecure world? We also know that financially we need to improve our trade links at the moment. And actually what he could be doing is trying to not only improve growth, drum up business, but to shore up a bit of stability in a difficult time.
Exactly what he's doing, and I think it's really important that he shows leadership here. We're seeing, unfortunately, the EU is too busy holding itself at home. They're dealing with their crises by being sat in their capitals, discussing around roundtables, whereas the Prime Minister seems to be jet-setting, which I think is okay, given the ginormous crisis the world finds itself in. You know, a coup in South Korea, or coup attempt in South Korea, the fall of Syria and the slow collapse of the evil axis in the Middle East, and also going to New York to try and New York and DC to try and speak to the new administrations. I think that's really important work, and I don't think we should be bashing him as such. I mean, there are huge issues at home that do need leadership and do need to be dealt with. But as Parliament winds up towards the end of the year, I think it's good that he's out and about and showing a bit of British leadership.
But Max, I don't think old Derek or Doris in their flats shivering to near death by Labour's own research anyway care about the coup in South Korea.
No. I think it's a good thing that we have politicians in place to deal with.
Good for who, though?
Statecraft, and I think statecraft is really important.
Lisa, good for who? Good for the farmers? Good for the pensioners who are struggling to put the heating on? Who?
No.
Who's it good for?
It's not. In the first 6 months of any government, what they should be doing is reassuring the people at home. They should be making people at home feel like they are safe, they are in different hands. The big message from Labour was change. And what they seem to do is, I think this government in particular, is that they don't like the British public. They don't spend that much time with us. We don't have a lot of, visits in the high visors and the hard hats that perhaps some of the politicians have done. Starmer specifically hides from the British public, and that's that's not me just sort of making a negative comment about Starmer. It's about the way that he is telling the story of the politics that he has to the British public. And the story that he's telling is, number one, he doesn't want to spend any time with them. He's not interested in them that much. And he sees his position as this sort of more global leader. And that doesn't connect with the ordinary people on the street.
Well, to be fair, the same criticism has been levelled at Kemi Badenoch, that she hasn't been rubbing shoulders with the populace too much either.
And
she was just in Washington last week. And yeah, Nigel Farage gets it as well. He's been hobnobbing, hasn't he, down in Florida as well. So I suppose it's maybe the modern politician. We're out of time. Max Marlow, Lisa McKenzie, though. Thank you both for your contributions.
Starmer did infamously say he preferred Davos to Westminster, so maybe that explains.
The Alps are rather beautiful.
Yeah, Verbier. Not bad this time of year if you can afford it.
Yeah. Stay with us coming up. Lots more, and it will be Ben and me just around the corner.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. Stena Line sailings remain suspended between Holyhead and Dublin because of a technical problem, with Irish ferry sailings between Holyhead and Dublin suspended because of storm damage. In Lincolnshire, the A151 is closed along Bourne Road at Corby Glen after an accident. In Leicestershire, the A6 is closed each way at Kibworth Beecham, north of Market Harbour, after an accident. In Ceredigion, the A44 remains closed each way east of Pontywydd because of a fallen tree. In Monmouthshire, the A40 is closed each way west of Abergavenny for emergency repairs. Buses replaced trains between Watford Junction and St Albans Abbey because of a faulty train. In London, the South Circular is closed each way along Poinders Road at Clapham Park for an investigation. On the M26 in Kent, it's taking half an hour in queues approaching the M25 because of roadworks. And in Hampshire, the A343 is closed near Ashmansworth because of a fallen tree. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back. 7:41, Isabel and Ben with you on GB News Breakfast this morning. During Advent, as you know, we count down to Christmas Day. We're hearing from church ministers all across the country.
Yeah, I love this little segment. There's a little bit of mindfulness, the original mindfulness, isn't it, Christianity? Each day they have a special message for you to help you celebrate the festive season. Enjoy.
The GB News Advent Calendar, Day 10.
I'm the Reverend Mike Millman, and a very warm welcome to St Leonard's Church in Denton, where I'm priest in charge. The Office of National Statistics reckons that we sell so many Brussels sprouts in the UK over the Christmas season that if you were to begin lining them up in central London, you would get all the way to Sydney, Australia. That is a lot of Brussels sprouts. Now, whether you like Brussels sprouts or not, there is no denying that Christmas is a wonderful season for food. And rightly so, because food is right at the heart of the mystery of what Christmas is all about. See, food reminds us that we are dependent creatures. We need a life source, you and I, given to us from outside of us. And we see that in so many of the details of the Christmas story. Jesus, he's born in Bethlehem, which means house of bread. As Jesus is born, he is laid in a manger, which is a feeding trough. Why? Because just as we need physical food to sustain our temporary life, Jesus is bread for the soul, bringing eternal life to all who receive him in faith.
Beautiful, love that one. And you can see all of our special Advent messages as Christmas approaches by visiting gbnews.com/Advent.
Now, if that wasn't enough to cheer you up, this definitely will. Paul Coit here with all the latest sport. Are you going to cheer me up, Coity?
What's your Christmas message?
My Christmas message is have a lovely time.
Oh, OK.
It is, and be nice and have a lovely time.
Yeah, it does prove easier said than done at Christmas.
There you go.
Have a lovely time.
Having a lovely time?
Well, I mean, in recent... Yeah, I mean...
So you had no idea quite how deep that was?
There's always Monopoly boards going in the air.
There?
Oh, well, in my house, not in your house.
I bet you are competitive when it comes to games, aren't you?
Do you have to beat the children?
Oh, yeah. They need to learn to lose.
Not normal.
It is. They need to learn to lose. You can't just let them win.
OK.
No, you don't agree?
No.
I think a balance. Occasionally they can lose, but you don't have to, like, smash them every time.
No.
Anyway,
we don't have long, apparently, Paul.
You go, come on, I've won. Dad's won again. Right, West Ham 2, Wolves 1. Wolves beat... Wolves, both managers in trouble. Julian Lopetegui, so he's got a stay of execution, I think, as far as West Ham's concerned. Gary O'Neill, I'm not quite so sure. With Wolves, they were unlucky. They had some decisions go against them. Yeah. But there were... when the goal went in for West Ham, when the second one held up number 9 for Mikel Antonio, everybody's sending him his best, or their best, I should say, after that car crash he had on Saturday. David Coote, the referee.
Oh, this is a story.
We've spoken about him before.
made
Firstly,
the front of the Sun today, off the back pages and onto the Sun.
Absolutely. Well, we know that he insulted Jurgen Klopp in Liverpool in this video that was... I just... If I was him, I'd be looking for the mate or the so-called friend that has been leaking everything about him.
I feel so sorry for this guy, this referee. He's made mistakes, he's been an idiot, but he has been stitched up by his friends who he trusted, and his friends would have got a couple of grand from the Sun, I suspect, for the story, and they've stitched him up. What kind friends?
Well, exactly. Well, I mean, there was that. There was the snorting white powder. And the Euros, subject of a betting probe.
Yeah.
Anyway, the PGMOL, I mean, let's be honest, they don't really have much choice, so they've had to let him go.
He deserved to be sacked, obviously, but I feel sorry that he's...
It's completely untenable. I mean, but the thing is, he started as a referee at 14, he's worked his way up, and it's just gone. So that's it. And it's... I mean, he was silly, but again, I think he's been set up quite badly by whoever it was. And finally, very briefly, Manchester City, 115 charges. That's been concluded now, so now we've got to wait for the three-man panel to make the decision. Whatever happens to Manchester City, a fine, that's not going to make any difference to them whatsoever. Relegation, we don't know. Points deduction, we don't know. We'll have to wait a few months until we get the answer, but then they could appeal. That could go on for years, so this one...
Send them down to the National League.
This one's never going to end.
Juventus style. See ya.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Well, we'll have to wait a while to see.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Right, still to come, Claire and Andy are going to go through what's making the news. They'll be with us in just a moment.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Now, is this a good idea? Because you are leaving yourself open to all sorts of criticism as a family if you let cameras into your house.
I have to admit I had big reservations, and Jacob gave all his children the choice whether to appear or not, and I discussed it with my own because we were in Somerset over the summer and the camera crews were around. And in fact, me and my husband decided that our children would not be in it at all.
Right.
The 2 younger ones didn't really know what the question was, and the 13-year-old was happier to not be in the spotlight. And they never have been. And I think that's where Jacob took less of a risk, because his children have been photographed left, right and centre from the day they were born, in newspapers, in cartoons, taking the mickey out of their names and whatever.
They're going to become the new Kardashians. Does your brother even know who Kim Kardashian is?
Oh, I'm not entirely sure I do. So, yeah, she's very famous for being quite curvaceous, I believe. Yeah. But I don't think they're anywhere near that category. I've seen a couple of articles where they do a compare and contrast, and they don't really match up. But I think this is quite from the bits I've seen, quite a light-hearted look at a very different type of lifestyle to most people, but at the people behind it who are, you know, normal human beings.
And Jacob's wife there we saw talking. What is she like? What are we expecting to hear from her?
Helena's brilliant. I had the great pleasure of introducing them as adults.
Your fault.
It's all my fault that there are now 6 extra Rees-Moggs around. But she is a fantastic, fun, but very, very steely, as you say, woman who knows her own mind.
I think she's going to be the star of the show.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Always the dulcet tones of Claire Muldoon chuckling in the wings before we come on air with these guys. We've got Andy Williams, Claire Muldoon, taking us through what's making the news. And we wanted to pick up on the story. We were talking about it earlier. It's in our bulletins. It's been a big story, this shooting of a healthcare CEO in the United States. But I noticed this morning on the front of the Mail that they're labelling the guy who has been arrested on suspicion of murder as the hot assassin. What do we think about this? Is this relevant? Is this strange? I don't know. I mean, it makes me think of Foxy Noxy. Do you guys remember Foxy Noxy, Amanda Knox? When she was involved in that Italian kind of sex game disaster, and she got acquitted, didn't she? And then there's... Well, you were listing some other attractive killers.
Ted Bundy.
Alleged killers in this case.
Was in context, should say, Isabel, but yes, it was. No, I mean, firstly, when I saw this, I was surprised that they'd put my photo on the front of the Daily Mail.
It's just the abs, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was it.
Exactly.
No, I think this is such an interesting... I mean, firstly, this story I still find mind-blowing, that in the middle of Manhattan, one of the busiest cities in the world, somebody could... you know, murder someone at point-blank range. Absolutely astonishing, but...
well, John Lennon, it happened to John Lennon.
Did, yeah, absolutely, same city.
Same city. I mean, clearly he's a very good-looking lad. There's no doubt about that. I think that's universal. But the thing that really strikes me is that the product placement that McDonald's has had over the past few months has, you know, is absolutely extreme. There are some elements to this story that are just weird. Yeah.
I think it does matter.
It's good looking.
It sells papers. I mean, it adds to the fascination of the story. I mean, this guy went to a 40 grand a year school.
Ivy League school.
Yeah, very good school. He apparently, according to his blog post talking about the world and technology and science, he seemed to be quite switched on. So it does make you wonder if indeed he was the person involved. He's obviously
There's a big bounty on his head.
Why somebody with that kind of background, and you seemingly have it all, you've got a great body as well, why you'd do that?
You've got a great body, would you throw it all away? Well, that's a million-dollar question, isn't it, that we are not equipped to answer,
But it is interesting that we all have an idea in our head of what somebody who might do something like this could look like, and this is just completely at odds with that.
Well, you know, it kind of ties in with the Syria stuff, because people were talking about loads of people have been coming forward the last few days saying he was my eye doctor, Assad, when he was in Warfield, and how ordinary he was, and the banality of evil, and how could you pick out a murderer from a crowd. I've done loads of murder trials and sat in court up close and personal with serial killers, and I wouldn't say there is a type or a look or a particular... No. It's fascinating.
I think it was John Simpson from the BBC who tweeted over the weekend saying that Assad was quite a meek and mild man and
anxious
with
to
manners.
Please, he said. Yeah, exactly.
Anxious to please, but then you see in the papers today the machine that he used to squash people as part of torture.
And spray poison and acid on children. And, you know, it's just horrific.
Chained with
so
their
that
legs
then
over the
it
wall.
begs the question, Luigi Mangione, if he is found guilty, will his actions be minimised because of the way he looks? And I think that's the interesting thing that will be covered over the next couple of days.
Definitely the theory with Amanda Knox, isn't there? That she was given...
It's not the picture of evil.
Knoxy, that she, you know, seduced the jury. To be discussed. Well, anyway, Andy, let's turn our attention to house buying. I mean, it just is beyond the reach of most young people. You know, will our children... I mean, I'm fortunate enough to own my own home. I don't know if you are. Will my kids ever be able to? I have no idea. And it's only getting worse.
Yeah, I am, and I bought a house last year and was very fortunate to be able to do so, but disposable household income as a ratio versus average house prices, it's the widest gap we've ever seen. The average house price is 8.6 times the average disposable household income. That rises to 14 times in London. So what the latest research is saying from the Office for National Statistics is that unless you're in the top 10% of household income, it's basically unaffordable for you to buy a home.
But Claire, do you think young people in this country want to own homes anymore? Because in Germany, it's quite it's a minority thing.
And in Australia as well, it's not the norm to buy. The norm is to rent if you can because of the transient population. And I have got 4 young kids, eldest 27, almost 27, youngest 20, and it would seem that they are actually priced out and they actually don't want to buy because of that.
OK, all right, we've got to go, unfortunately. Andy, Claire, thank you. You'll be back in the next...
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. High pressure in charge today, a stark contrast to last week's stormy weather. Cloudy for many, but frost and fog prevalent across northern parts of the country. Scotland, Northern Ireland, seeing some low temperatures as we begin the day, and some dense fog patches could cause tricky driving conditions, particularly through the central belt, and that fog could persist into the afternoon in 1 or 2 spots. Otherwise, sunny skies for Scotland and Northern Ireland. The Northern Isles affected by cloud and rain, and some showery rain coming into the southeast of England on a brisk northeasterly breeze. That's going to make it feel cold, 7 or 8 Celsius in the south, but below freezing where any fog patches persist. And that fog will tend to reform and develop more widely once again into the evening as the sun goes down, especially through the central belt, but also across many Highland glens and into Northern Ireland as well. Some dense fog patches forming widely after dark. Meanwhile, clear skies will lead to sub-zero temperatures once again for Scotland, Northern Ireland, parts of northwest England and West Wales overnight, but a lot of cloud remains for the rest of England and Wales, and again some showery rain and a brisk breeze coming in from the northeast will keep temperatures above freezing in the south and southeast. But it's going to be a grey night across many southern and eastern parts of England as well as Wales. 4 to 6 Celsius first thing, where we've got the cloud cover, where we've got the clearer skies, all the freezing fog. Temperatures will be several degrees below freezing. So Northern Ireland, Scotland begin Wednesday similar to this morning. Frost widely, dense fog patches, some of that fog persisting into the afternoon. Otherwise, crisp winter sunshine for much of northern UK. Further south, cloudy skies continue, although some brighter interludes will emerge across central parts. Highs here of 6 to 8 Celsius.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. Stena Line sailings remain suspended between Holyhead and Dublin because of a technical problem, and Irish ferries not running between Holyhead and Dublin because of storm damage. A couple of problems in Lincolnshire. The A15 is closed at Metheringham after an accident, and the A151 is closed along Bourne Road at Corby Glen after an accident. In Leicestershire, the A6 is closed north of Market Harborough near to Kibworth Beecham after an accident. In Ceredigion, the A44 remains closed east of Pontywydd because of a fallen tree. The M42 in Worcestershire, there are northbound queues towards Junction 3 at Redditch after traffic was stopped because of an accident. In Monmouthshire, the A40 is closed each way west of Abergavenny for emergency repairs. On the M1 in Bedfordshire, the inside lane's closed southbound just after Junction 13 at Bedford after an accident causing delays. And in London, the South Circular is closed each way along Poinders Road at Clapham Park for an investigation.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Imagine getting the call.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, good to see you. A landmark new agreement between the UK and Germany to stop the people smuggling gangs.
That's as Home Secretary Yvette Cooper pauses all decisions on Syrian asylum claims.
So will the new changes help finally put an end to illegal crossings in the Channel?
Yes, they scrapped the Rwanda plan as soon as they came into government. They haven't set any targets on migration, but they do hope that this new agreement with Germany will help them, as Sir Keir Starmer says, to smash the gangs. I'll bring you more details shortly.
Another Tory defection. This time, billionaire Nick Candy joins Reform as the party's new treasurer, pledging to help make Nigel Farage Prime Minister.
A 26-year-old suspect at the centre of last week's health CEO shooting in New York has been dramatically arrested at a McDonald's in the United States and charged.
Farmers prepare for another day of protest as the government ignores their pleas over changes to inheritance tax.
And despite the issues piling up at home, the Prime Minister's showing no sign of ditching his jet-setting ways, but he's certainly not the only one. We've been debating whether all our politicians are spending too much time overseas.
And despite increasing medical advancements, dementia remains the UK's lead cause of death last year, as researchers urge the government to take more action.
And the sport this morning, West Ham beat Wolves, so looking on the bright side for Wolves manager Gary O'Neill, he may not have to work over Christmas. Referee David Coops fired by the PGMOL, and the biggest sports contract in history has been signed.
High pressure has returned, a stark contrast to the storminess of last week, but not necessarily dry and sunny for everyone. There will be some showery rain and even some dense fog about this morning. I'll have the full forecast coming up shortly.
Very good morning to you. It's just gone 8 o'clock. I'm Ben Leo.
I'm Isabel Webster, and you're tuned into GB News Breakfast.
So, just been going through the papers this morning. In the Mail, there is a guide, hour by hour, what Christmas drinking does to your body and how to reduce your hangover. Are you prone, Izzy, to a Christmas booze up?
I do love a drink, but I've actually pretty much stopped drinking the last couple of months, and so I'm going to have a pretty booze-free Christmas for once in my life. What about you?
I'm not a massive drinker, particularly because of the hangovers, but I just can't handle them anymore, especially having to look after kids the next day or do something.
Some people just don't get hangovers, though. Are you one of those?
Quality?
You know what? I can't even remember. I think the hangovers are so bad, and I'm like you though, Benny. So it's like when you've got kids.
Yeah.
I just think I don't want to be one of those that's laying. I can't play with the kids because I'm feeling so rough, and then.
Yeah.
And also, when you get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, it's not usually it's not very good, is it?
Body clock, you're so tired by about 9 o'clock at night that you want to go home from wherever you are.
I'll tell you what, we're the three you really want to invite to a party, by the way. Wow. We're great. We'll be great for you.
We are.
Well, if you do decide to get on the old Bucks Fizz, it says don't drink on an empty stomach, sip water or non-fizzy drinks between alcoholic ones to reduce the burden on your liver. And, of course, drink lots of water before bed. I mean, it goes without saying.
I read yesterday that there's something anabolic or something about eating cheese before you drink. If you eat cheese before you drink, it reduces the alcohol effect in your body. So
well, you know how I feel about cheese.
Oh, no, but, I mean, you're with me on this, Ben. Cheese is like the food of God.
We discussed this yesterday. What's your favourite cheese?
No, he doesn't eat cheese.
Oh, you don't eat cheese?
He's a weirdo.
What's wrong with you?
It's quite a lot, but I hate cheese. I just can't stand cheese. There's a few of us.
I love a spritzer, which is such my mum drink, you know, lady in her 70s, but add a bit of sparkling water.
Yeah.
Goes a lot further.
Little pinky sticking out at the same time.
I sound really fun, don't I? Anyway, let us know your plans for Christmas and how you plan to curb your Christmas hangovers. So you've been making notes there.
Yeah. There we go. Right, let's get on to the serious stuff, because the UK and Germany have agreed a landmark action plan to tackle small boat crossings.
Yes, the plans mean that Germany will now make it a specific criminal offence to facilitate migrant smuggling to the UK.
The Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, says the deal will boost border security and indeed save lives.
The gangs operate across borders. Law enforcement needs to operate across borders as well. And that is why this joint action plan is so important. This is groundbreaking work in order to allow us to share intelligence, to better share information, to be able to strengthen our actions, strengthen law enforcement and powers to be able to go after the criminal gangs and their supply chains and their illicit finance as well.
Well, the Shadow Home Secretary, Chris Philp, was on the programme around an hour ago. He said he didn't know what the government was crowing about, that these plans were under discussion when they were in power, and he doesn't think the plans go far enough.
Let's speak to GB News political correspondent Catherine Forster. Catherine, good morning. It does beg the question, if the plans didn't go far enough, why the Tories didn't do something about it. But one key question for you about this deal with Germany, Catherine, is how much is it costing the UK? Do you know, if anything?
We don't have the figures, but I wouldn't imagine that it would be costing the United Kingdom anything. You know, this is an agreement with Germany. It's different to France, where we're paying France hundreds of millions to keep people from making that crossing. I'll have to get back to you when the Home Office are open to talk about that. But this deal, basically, Germany is changing the law to make facilitating smuggling gangs clear. Oh, can't get my words out, pardon me. A clear criminal offence, which you'd think it already would be. They are also going to tackle the supply and storage of small boats. We know that some of these inflatable boats and the engines are stored and do come through Germany. Also cracking down on social media posts encouraging people to make this journey. There's also, separate to that, a meeting this morning in London of what they call the Calais Group. That's police chiefs and ministers from France, from Germany, from the UK, Belgium and the Netherlands, talking about migration and the channel crossings in particular working together. They're coming up with a plan for next year. But of course, as the Shadow Home Secretary said earlier, the government came in and one of the first things it did was scrap the Rwanda plan, which the Tories had planned to get people on flights from July. And the National Crime Agency has said that we need a deterrent. Now, the PM says that the smashing of the gangs is the deterrent. But you do wonder if this stuff was easy, it would have already been done. Time will tell. Meanwhile, the crossings are up on last year and more people dying in the channel this year than they have for many years before it.
It's tragic. Catherine, can I get your thoughts on Nick Candy, the billionaire businessman who previously donated millions and millions of pounds to the Conservative Party? In February this year, he praised Sir Keir Starmer, saying it was time for change. Now, though, a big coup, apparently, for Reform UK. He's defected.
Yes, indeed. More good news for Reform. He is a billionaire, of course, and he's going to be their treasurer from next year. So it does feel like Reform are on a bit of a roll. We had that poll last week that put them ahead of Labour for the first time. We've had Suella Braverman's husband go over to Reform. Speculation about Suella Braverman herself, though she said that that's not going to happen. But it does feel like they've got the wind in their sails. And of course, Nick Candy has a lot of money. If he wants to contribute a few million to Reform, of course, that would make a big, big difference to them.
OK, Catherine, thanks very much indeed.
Yeah. Waits to be seen as well if Elon Musk is going to deliver on his £100 million, or rumoured. I think he denied it when he was asked about it, but yeah, who knows?
It might not be that total, but it certainly seems as he's going to invest some money somehow. X amount, if you pardon the pun.
Yeah.
He'll be doing it through his online platform X.
Yeah.
Right, the UK has paused all decisions on Syrian asylum claims following the fall of the Assad regime over the weekend.
Yes, meanwhile, the Prime Minister says Britain must be intensely focused on the transition to a new regime in Syria amid fears of a resurgent Islamic State.
Well, let's speak now to the former head of the British Army, General Lord Richard Dannett, friend of the programme. Thanks very much for joining us this morning. Goodness me, what a few days this has been. And, you know, it's a very fast evolving picture. In fact, reports this morning that Israeli tanks have been seen close to the capital, Damascus. First of all, what do you think that means?
Well, that's, I would regard that as rather concerning. I think the situation in Syria has come about because the Syrian opposition, we've been calling them rebels for some time, but groups that oppose the Assad regime have acted decisively, and they have turfed out Assad himself. This is the Syrians taking control of their own country, and I hope very much that external actors, Israel included, will think long and hard before they get themselves involved at this stage. I think we have to give the Syrians the space, the dignity and the opportunity to try and create a better society for themselves. So I hope there is not too much advantage-taking intervention by other countries, particularly by Israel.
Lord Dannett, just for people who aren't very clued up on it, including me, why would Israel be in the country, and likewise Turkey in the north? Are they trying to influence the new regime to install who they want to take power? Is it potentially a land grab? What is exactly the reason for them being there?
I don't think it's a land grab at all. I think the Israelis have launched some airstrikes, and you're reporting there's also been some ground operation. There are chemical weapon sites. There are certain other weapon sites that Israel, in the interest of its own security, would like to destroy and to deny a future regime getting their hands on. Of course, nobody knows what's going to happen in Syria. I mean, I said just now, let's allow the Syrians to sort it out for themselves. But it's quite possible when you get a vacuum like this, chaos like this, that real hardliners of an ISIS Islamist type nature, they could wind up taking control. And of course, from Israel's point of view, that's exactly the kind of regime they don't want, very close to their own borders. So you can understand why Israel might be getting involved, but go back to my original point, let's hope and give the opportunity for the Syrians to sort it out in a more moderate way for themselves.
Yeah, and I suppose the Israelis aren't the only ones who are worried about their security. Even here in this country, we have plenty of foreign fighters that went out and are in jails still under Kurdish-controlled northern Syria. But we'd be very, very worried about any of those being released and potentially coming back to our shores, any increase in Islamism here. You know, do you accept that this guy Al-Jalani, who obviously worked and fought alongside al-Nusra and al-Qaeda, is a reformed character who will, tolerate the Kurds in the north, will tolerate the Christians and could accept the role of women in his country? Or do you think that Aleppo doesn't really change his spots and there isn't much hope for the country?
Well, the answer is we don't know. I think we can hope that actually he has changed his outlook over the last 10 years or so. It's quite some time ago, 2016, that he cut his links with Al-Qaeda. And he may well have come to the conclusion that, particularly looking to see what's happened most recently in Afghanistan, that a really repressive regime like that really holds the country back. And if he's genuinely interested in seeing a better Syria emerge, it may well be, yes, of course, he's got an Islamist background, but he may feel that a national approach, a pro-Syria approach, Syria for all Syrians, may be a better approach to take. We don't know. We'll have to watch and wait, but I think hope is a reasonable aspiration at the present moment.
I have to ask you, because I'd like to get your expert opinion on it. Assad, of course, was a monster. He was a despot. There's absolutely awful detail in the papers this morning. There's videos going around online of the torture chambers at the notorious prison, so on and so on. But in your opinion, Lord Dannatt, is it a case of better the devil you know with Assad being in, or are you welcoming his fall?
We have to welcome his fall. I think his regime was hugely oppressive. Well documented that hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands were either tortured or lost their lives. So seeing the back of his regime is a good thing. But, and here is the big problem, if you look at Iraq, if you look at Libya, and if you look now at Syria, these countries are artificial countries put together in the early 20th century by the victors of the First World War. They're not natural countries, but have only held together when they've had a strong regime, a dictator, if you like. Now, we got rid of Saddam Hussein, chaos in Iraq. Same thing happened in Libya. So we have to really hope that a government for the people, strong enough to control the country, emerges. Now, whether this is Al-Jalani and others that he can bring in together to work with him, I don't know. But there is a risk that when a strong regime is kicked out, there is a vacuum, potentially chaos, and you're never quite sure what is going to happen. So at the present moment, it seems reasonable to put our hopes on a somewhat reformed Al-Jalani and hope that he can bring a consensus together and various groups together to put some form of reasonable governance in place in Syria. But we're going to have to watch and wait and hope.
OK. General Lord Richard Dannatt, always good to get your thoughts. Thank you.
Thanks, Lord Dannatt. Let's have a look at some of the other stories coming into the newsroom this morning. 26-year-old Luigi Mangione has been arrested and charged overnight in connection with the fatal shooting of US healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Mr. Thompson was shot dead on a Manhattan street in broad daylight last week in what's believed to have been a targeted assassination.
The suspect, Mr. Mangione, was arrested at a Pennsylvania McDonald's and was quickly arrested after being recognised by staff there. According to police officials, he was found carrying a handwritten manifesto which criticised healthcare companies.
The Prime Minister has said Britain and its allies must be intensely focused on the transition to a new regime in Syria amid fears of a resurgent Islamic State. It comes as the UK has paused all Syrian asylum claims.
And the Princess of Wales is one of the 10 people that's been shortlisted for Time Person of the Year. She joins the likes of Elon Musk, Donald Trump, Kamala Harris, Benjamin Netanyahu and Yulia Navalnaya, among others. Princess Catherine is being hailed by the magazine for starting a conversation around privacy and health.
I've got some news for you. Nobody particularly cares, I suspect, but I got my roof fixed after Storm Dara. Is it Dara?
Yeah?
Yeah.
So it's nice and sturdy, ready for Christmas when the next round's going to hit.
Yeah, was there another round coming?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Another round of storms.
Batten down the hatches, apparently, yeah.
Maybe I should have waited for that one to pass then.
Well, let's find out from Aidan McGivney. He probably knows more about all of this than I do. I think at the moment the big problem is the frost if you're living up north. Let's get the details.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. High pressure in charge today, a stark contrast to last week's stormy weather. Cloudy for many, but frost and fog prevalent across northern parts of the country. Scotland, Northern Ireland, seeing some low temperatures as we begin the day, and some dense fog patches could cause tricky driving conditions, particularly through the central belt, and that fog could persist into the afternoon in one or two spots. Otherwise, sunny skies for Scotland and Northern Ireland. The Northern Isles affected by cloud and rain, and some showery rain coming into the southeast of England on a brisk northeasterly breeze. That's going to make it feel cold, 7 or 8 Celsius in the south, but below freezing where any fog patches persist. And that fog will tend to reform and develop more widely once again into the evening as the sun goes down, especially through the central belt, but also across many Highland glens and into Northern Ireland as well. Some dense fog patches forming widely after dark. Meanwhile, clear skies will lead to sub-zero temperatures once again for Scotland, Northern Ireland, parts of northwest England and West Wales overnight, but a lot of cloud remains for the rest of England and Wales, and again some showery rain and a brisk breeze coming in from the northeast will keep temperatures above freezing in the south and southeast. But it's going to be a grey night across many southern and eastern parts of England as well as Wales. 4 to 6 Celsius first thing, where we've got the cloud cover, where we've got the clearer skies, all the freezing fog. Temperatures will be several degrees below freezing. So Northern Ireland, Scotland begin Wednesday similar to this morning. Frost widely, dense fog patches, some of that fog persisting into the afternoon. Otherwise, crisp winter sunshine for much of northern UK. Further south, cloudy skies continue, although some brighter interludes will emerge across central parts. Highs here of 6 to 8 Celsius.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Time now for the Great British Giveaway, your chance to become our biggest ever winner with an incredible £50,000 in tax-free cash. It is an amazing sum of money. It could make it into your bank account in time for New Year. Here are all the details you need for a chance to make it yours.
Imagine getting the call to tell you that you've won £50,000 in tax-free cash, our biggest cash prize of the year.
OK, very good luck to you. Still to come, a very important story. It's the biggest killer in the UK, and I wasn't aware of this until this morning. Dementia. But are we doing enough to help researchers? Lots of you getting in touch on your say this morning. I'll read a quick one here. Barbara, you said, I believe much dementia could be preventable with better lifestyles. However, it's like obesity and cancer. Once acquired, it has to be treated. Proper, healthy diet and nutrition should be focused on prevention. I think it's also hereditary, a big
Yeah, it can be.
well.
Yeah, Joanne has said, morning, guys. We currently have my mum, Anne, living with us. Mum has mid-dementia, and it is so hard to watch her leave us more and more each day. It heart breaks reading this. I gave up work to care for my mum full-time, but today is a good day. It's her 84th birthday. Oh, happy birthday, Anne. Lots planned. As we know, it will be the last that she will remember, and that's from Joanne in Dorset. Well, very happy birthday, and amazing what you're doing for your mum.
Yeah, happy birthday to you. Sad at the same time.
Really
sad
sad.
hearing that. It's a disease where you literally lose yourself, and it's not just the person who's suffering it that is impacted, it's the wider family as well.
Watching it happen. More on that in just a moment.
This is GB News.
Britain's news channel.
British 10-year-old has beaten Stephen Hawking and Albert Einstein in an IQ test, would you believe? Genius Krish Arora got the maximum score of 162, which puts him in the top 1% globally.
Goodness me. Well, Krish's parents noticed his brilliant potential after learning he could read fluently by the age of 4.
Krish, how does it feel to be a child genius?
I feel really happy and privileged.
Aww. Do you see it as a gift that you have?
Yeah.
Oh, that's just wonderful. Nichelle, what do you make of your child being a genius? When did it become apparent to you that Krish had something different, something special?
I think at the age of 4, he was doing things that were way beyond and above his age.
Yeah.
He could read fluently and he could spell correctly, and he was doing complex decimal divisions. So we thought that he's on to something. I think there's a spark out here.
Wow. And how are you reading books, Krish? Did you just pick them up from your mum and dad's bookshelf and just start reading to yourself?
We used to go to the library and we got books.
Such a good tip. Such a good tip as parents.
Yeah.
Head to the library, take your kids to the library.
So, Nichelle, can Krish just do it all? Is he just an all-rounder genius? Every subject, every talent, he can do it all?
Absolutely, and he helps out the family as well. He's been teaching me grade 1 piano, and he hopes, and I repeat, he hopes that I'm going to complete it in 12 months' time. And he also helps out Mum, because when Mum is teaching his sister, Mum sometimes says, Krish, go solve that problem and, help your sister out. So, yes, he can do it all.
Krish, you're a superstar.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion. Mark meets at My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back. Now, Alzheimer's UK have revealed dementia was the leading cause of death in the UK last year.
Yeah, it was news to both of us this morning, actually, but data shows over 75,000 people died in 2023 from dementia, and there are fears that our ageing population will see this crisis worsen.
The charity says the government's 10-year health plan should be used to future-proof NHS dementia services so the condition doesn't remain a death sentence.
Well, earlier we spoke to the GP and Chief Executive of Doncaster Local Medical Council, Dr Dean Eggett.
We do know, though, is that dementia is not one specific disease. It's a general decline in the brain, and that decline in the brain can be from a number of problems, including things like redness and swelling, inflammation, fatty tissue, general damage over a number of years. So if you look after your body really, really well, then, of course, your brain will be looked after too. So naturally it comes that, if you have a drug that generally looks after the body, the brain may benefit from that as well. I think it's important to understand really that dementia isn't one disease. Actually, it's a collection of different diseases. So there's no real one answer to that. Dementia is a general decline in the brain's function over time. And there are 4, 5, 6 different sort of categories of dementia. One of the commonest, as you pointed out, is Alzheimer's type dementia, which has a genetic component to it. But there's also other types such as vascular dementia, where you get little clots in the brain, such as like a heart attack, kind of like a stroke, really, that slowly brings on a worsening condition of the brain. So yes, there are genetic parts to that, so much as that it helps, it's aided, by cholesterol problems, but also it's very much about lifestyle. Do you smoke? Do you drink a lot of alcohol? Do you generally look after your body and your nerves? So there's a bit of a mix of the two there. We are slowly starting to make breakthroughs. Yes, I mean, there are some startling statistics here. there's one particularly that scares me, that of those people born today, 1 in 3 are likely to develop dementia within their lifetime. This is a staggeringly large problem that costs the UK economy at the moment £35 billion per year.
Wow.
In the next 25 years is likely to cost the UK economy £70 billion. So you can see there is a huge rush in companies trying to develop dementia cures, which I don't personally believe that there will be, but treatments to at least slow the progression of the decline. If you think that just nerves don't talk to each other, how can we encourage them to talk better and get rid of some of that junk in between them? There must be quite a number of possible drugs out there yet to be found.
A few more views coming in, actually, this morning on this. Everybody seems to be touched in some way by it. Christina says, my mum never smoked or drank. She always ate healthily, was always active mentally and physically, but she died of dementia, which was extremely painful for us to watch. You can't blame lifestyle choices and compare it, say, to obesity. Fair point there, Christina. So sorry for your loss as well.
Yeah. Carolina, you say, good morning. I've just been diagnosed with the early stages of Alzheimer's. I'm 50 years old. Such a shock, but at least I have a diagnosis. I'm not giving up and I'm staying positive. I'm so sorry to hear that.
See if you can get involved in one of those trials for those drugs that slow the progression of the disease. That's what I think I'd do if I got an early diagnosis. So difficult. Good luck to you in fighting that, and thank you to everybody who sent in personal stories, because it is a difficult area. It's also the topic of our poll of the day. We're asking, should more funding go towards dementia care in Britain?
We'll be bringing you the live results throughout the day, so make sure to stay tuned, and the final results will be announced later in Martin Daubney's show.
And just a reminder, all our latest polls, news and how to vote can be found on our website, gbnews.com/poll.
OK, still to come, Coity will be here with all the latest sports news. That's next.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On the M90 in Edinburgh, the southbound exit to the southbound M9 is partly blocked by an accident at junction 1 at Kirkliston, causing delays. Stena Line and Irish ferry sailings between Holyhead and Dublin remain suspended. In Lincolnshire, the A15 is closed at Mesringham after an accident. In Leicestershire, the A6 is closed north of Market Harborough near to Kibworth Beecham after an accident. On the M6 in the West Midlands, there's a lane closed northbound where a lorry's broken down at junction 5 near Birmingham, just taking around 40 minutes in the queues. On the M42 in Worcestershire, there are long northbound delays towards junction 3 at Redditch after an accident. In Monmouthshire, the A40 is closed in both directions west of Abergavenny for emergency repairs. And in London, the South Circular is closed in both directions on Poinders Road at Clapham Park for an investigation. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Somebody say horse racing.
Horse racing. Ears prick up.
What's
My ears
that,
pricked up like a horse running up that Cheltenham Hills to win at the festival.
It was when you went like that through
You did
excitement.
actually, yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Let's do Champions League
All right,
first.
let's do the footy.
Let's do the footy.
Get it
We'll
out
get
the
there.
way.
What do we get it out of the way?
GG's.
Dynamo Zagreb versus Celtic. Celtic need to win. It would be their first away win in the Champions League for 7 years. They've got 8 points out of 5 matches. Zagreb, by the way, have not won in 5. So a very good chance for Celtic tonight. 20th out of 36. Top 24 going to the playoff.
I don't understand this new Champions League format, and I don't want to.
Do you not want to?
No, I've had enough of it.
OK.
Stop tampering with the Champions League.
Girona versus Liverpool. Top of the Champions League table. Liverpool are on top of the Premier League as well. Alisson is back in goal. And RB Leipzig versus Aston Villa. Leipzig have lost all 5 games in the Champions League. Aston Villa had their little wobble where they hadn't won for 8, but beat Brentford and Southampton. So they're all away. Aston Villa, Liverpool and Celtic tonight in the Champions League.
Great. Unai Emery, a specialist in Europe, of course.
Of course he is, yeah. So let's. I mean, they were top of the Champions League for a little while, but if they qualify and move through, then all good.
I just don't get the league. So how does it work?
First to 12, top 12. It's 36 teams. Top 12 go through. Or no, it's top 8 go through, and then you have 8 to 24. They will then go into a playoff, and anybody below that will then
sounds too convoluted. It wasn't broken anyway.
Let me tell you about the most expensive or the richest sports person there's going to be now. This is in baseball. Let's have a look at him in action, shall we? His name is Juan Soto, 4-time Major League Baseball All-Star. He's agreed a 15-year deal. That's him playing for the New York Yankees. He's playing for the New York Mets now. He's just signed for 26-year-old Dominican. The largest professional sports contract, $700 million over 15 years. 15-year contract, though. Which means he's going to be playing till he's 39, which is very bizarre. How about that? 700 million quid or dollars. It's not bad going, is it?
700 million.
700 million over 15 years.
Not too shabby.
Do you want to do the horse racing? You love a bit of horse racing.
That's what I'm waiting for.
I know you love a bit.
Quickly.
Love a bit of horse racing.
See what I did there?
Very good. Rufio, right, final race, Virgin Bet Christmas jumper race day. Before we see this, it was at Musselburgh. Now, Rufio unseated Lucy Brown, who was the jockey, and you know when they unseat, you often look at the horses and they run along, don't they? Well, this is what happened to Rufio. Now, Rufio leaving Musselburgh and then off down the road. Isn't that bizarre?
Did he go all the way home to his stable?
Still going, bless him.
Bless.
I know, look at that. So they ended up chasing after him and he was absolutely fine and they picked him up and then took him back to the...
Reminds me of the horse Mad Moose. Do you remember Mad Moose?
I don't remember.
He refused to race on about 6 or 7 occasions. The stalls would open, he refused to come out. Then they tried him in national hunt racing. He ran up to the fences and just refused. He was very funny.
Didn't want to do it.
Full of character.
Didn't want to do it.
No.
Well, bless him. So then they retired him, sent him out to
retired
stud?
him. Yeah, I mean, useless, I guess.
Yeah, won't run, won't jump. He's not really got much future in
I think
horse
he's
racing.
enjoying himself in the paddock somewhere.
Finally, we got time for a bit of polo?
Can I just read you an email from a viewer who was supporting me because you're all ganging up saying it was
saying it's a posh
la-di-da.
sport? Yes.
This is from Debbie Hoggins, my new favourite member of our audience. She's emailed to say, polo isn't just for posh
Is this Dame Debbie Hoggins, by the way?
I play polo at Rugby Polo Club. We have a great community from all walks of life. This is Nessie. She sent a picture of her gorgeous polo pony. She was a rescue. I've trained her to play. You are all welcome to come and have a play and Prosecco day.
There you go.
She says, P.S. love GB News. So there we go.
Great. Ponies aren't ponies, though. You know they're not ponies, don't you?
Polo ponies, they are.
They're not. They're thoroughbred horses, so they're not actually ponies.
Oh, OK.
They call them ponies.
Yeah.
And your chucker, you know what a chucker is? Your chucker is your period of play, which lasts 7 minutes, and often you get up to 6 chuckers in the game. That's in the professional game. Your mallet, we know about that, which is the stick used for hitting the ball, which is traditionally bamboo, so it bends as you swing. And the line of the ball is very important because players can only approach a rolling ball in line so nobody gets injured. And by the way, a bump, that's not someone when you're trying to push through to get your foie gras in the queue. That's not the bump. That's when someone actually rides off another and moves the other rider out of the way to get the ball. A bit of argy-bargy. That's your
Are you allowed to are they called jockeys? What are polo players called? Right.
Yeah.
Are they allowed to whip the horses?
No, well, because they've got... They can't... because they've got one hand on the mallet.
Right.
So they can't have a whip or else they'd be like no hands, I guess. So
I don't
that's
know.
with the mallet.
Just
You'd enjoy it. I guarantee.
never been
you'd enjoy it.
immersed in
And
the
do you know
world
what?
of
It's a really nice family day out. It's loads of kids go as well. It's summer, obviously, quintessentially British tradition.
What was the place you
Lovely.
said in Sussex?
There's one called Cowdray Park in Sussex,
Okay.
which is really lovely. And you've got them in Windsor. Obviously, you see lots of the royals in Windsor.
It's not posh.
There's Ham.
It's called the Sport of Kings. But that's just a coincidence.
Well, Harry and William are brilliant at it.
I think I'd just prefer to go down Plumpton or Fontwell.
See a bit of horse racing.
Yeah,
there's
bit
plenty
of
of
Class
posh people
6
there as
racing.
well, don't worry.
Yeah, yes. Anything with the horses. 2,000 years, over 2,000 years old polo, by the way.
There you go.
Yeah, started in the Far East.
Don't knock it
Came
till
over
you've
here.
tried it.
The reason, of course, we're talking about polo is Prince Harry's new Netflix documentary is coming out. Paul's going to be tuned in first.
Honestly, I'm just waiting by Netflix, ready to find out more.
It's a sport. You should be in.
It is. Well, that's why we're doing it in a sport, Izzy.
good,
That's
just
why I'm
checking.
teaching you the world of polo.
Great. Thanks for that. Appreciate it. Still to come, Claire and Alex join us for one. Alex? Andy.
It's Andy,
It's
you're
Andy
right,
today.
yeah.
It did say Alex there.
It did.
I did ask where Alex
It's
Armstrong
Andy
was
Williams.
these days. Andy Williams and Claire. They're back in just a sec for the paper review.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. And with a difference, it's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised!
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Now, our next guests have been working closely with celebrities and MPs to help clean up our planet.
Very important. Think Ocean was founded in 2021 with two main goals. One, educating the next generation to make sure that they know when they're growing up that naturally we have to take care of the planet and cleaning pollution that's already in the environment.
Well, joining us now to tell us more is Think Ocean's founder, Hugo Valdez-Vera, and the co-founder, Nolene Mariappan. Really good
Morning,
to see you both this morning. So, Nolene, let's start with you. What is Think Ocean and why did you want to start this back in 2021?
Yes, so Hugo had actually been working on the environment and climate action for quite a long time. When he moved to the UK, he realised that there was a growing problem with plastic pollution and that more needed to be done because people weren't actually seeing the link between plastic, the impact on the environment and climate change. So he founded the organisation and I joined him with three goals, really. Education, looking at technology to scale solutions, and looking at how we develop more circular economy programs. So actually looking at reusing, recycling, actually creating local economies from what people would consider waste.
Hugo, just how bad is plastic pollution around the world, and especially here in the UK?
Well, it is bad, but we don't know the extent of how bad it is. You know, this is not much interest from the bigger players or, some government for us to know every detail of the pollution. So if we know that is from 1 to 10 is 2, probably it's about 6.
Oh.
GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Andy Williams and Claire Muldoon are back in the studio to go through the day's best
we'll
stories.
answer to Andy Claire, that's fine, babe.
At least it wasn't Alex. The autocue said Alex in the introduction. You probably missed it, but I was on the ball.
Begins with A.
It's all the same.
All the same. Andy, civil servants could sue over festive party snubs. So apparently, if you're not invited to the festive do, they could sue for discrimination. What is going on there?
So apparently there is a precedent for this. So in 2021, a new mother who wasn't invited to Christmas drinks at the last minute was given a payout of £9,000.
What?
She sued successfully. There's been examples of people being awarded up to £20,000 in the civil service because they haven't been invited to Christmas parties for various reasons.
But if it's the official Christmas party and she's been excluded because she's, a breastfeeding mother or something, you can see how that might be murky. But
you can, but yeah.
You know...
I think employers have got far more important things to deal with than who's off the Christmas party list.
Christmas parties seem to have become a bit of a political minefield for employers. You know, there's the booze aspect, there's who do you invite and when, how inclusive is it? And it is, you know, it's challenging, but at the end of the day, I think people just have to exercise a bit of common sense.
And self-control.
I assume this story is maybe the unofficial drinks amongst employees and not the official civil servants.
But you probably would have found, Ben, she wouldn't have gone in any event because she would have been too tired. She would have just wanted to stay at home. I mean, how many of us here actually get an invite to something and then at the last minute think, really don't want to go, and then cancel? And also the burden of responsibility on employers now for safeguarding employees against any form of sexual harassment and banter is horrific.
Yeah, or anything. I mean, I think, you know, I know of bosses who've had to accompany employees from parties to A&E because they've had too much to drink and knock themselves out or whatever. So it's a nightmare in terms of...
But it doesn't seem to have any responsibility on the person. It's almost as if we just do what we want and let someone else be responsible, which goes against the grain of any form of sexual abuse, sexual harassment, or worse.
Let's talk about our trains, Claire. I got my daily text from my husband this morning saying I'm on the train, standing room only, as per... You know, and you pay an absolute fortune for the privilege. And apparently we pay the highest fares in Europe.
We do.
On the front of the Telegraph.
We do, and we've consistently paid more in this country than we have in Europe for years and years. And we've spoken often about times when it's actually cheaper to fly than take the train.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's
that
really
was
ridiculous.
the case of me in Scotland the other week to Aberdeen.
Yeah.
Cheaper to fly with BA than get a train.
It was cheaper for me to fly to Newcastle than it was to take the train.
What do you think is more of a hassle out of interest? Because I would always prefer to fly, but then the train's
actually
takes you
easier.
straight into the town, doesn't it?
No security.
Yeah.
You just walk
No
through.
queues.
You've got your seat. You sit down.
Slower.
You have a drink, and you don't need to pay for it because you've bought it before. It's much nicer.
£300 more though.
Yeah. So you don't. You would fly.
Yeah.
But if you can sit at a train table and work or whatever you need to do, it is much easier.
But Wi-Fi doesn't work either.
Wi-Fi is terrible.
Train Wi-Fi is the
Remember there was a chap
terrible.
who was paid by was it the Observer or something at the Times?
Times, I think.
And he did a whole day of travelling all over the country and he couldn't even get through one full movie.
No.
But the trick was to download it before he left, but he didn't even think of that.
But we're paying apparently twice as much as the average in Europe. I mean, and actually, if you go to... I was in Italy over the summer. We took a 3-hour train journey. It was so easy. It was really nice and clean and reasonably cheap.
Well, last week Labour announced that they are re-nationalising South Western Rail. That's the first of the franchises that they're reabsorbing. Will that improve things? Will there be more rolling stock? Will fares be reduced? Who knows? I mean, personally don't know how that might...
Well, I think the government admitted yesterday that it's unlikely to cut fares because we're going to need
the staffing costs that the Labour government have just handed to the unions as well.
Well, there's that, but there's also going to need to be a huge amount of investment in the railways, and that's going to come through in fares.
But they were always government. The actual railways were always nationally owned. Yeah. So I don't understand why the upkeep of those has not knocked on to us being able to travel.
Why do we have the most
ridiculous.
expensive everything in this country? The most expensive electricity and gas prices, the most expensive rail fares, houses,
schools.
And yet our salaries, actually, we're becoming a middle-income country. Salaries are not keeping pace at all for most people.
And we wonder why lots of people are leaving.
Well, we're going to head into recession. I think that's the only thing. And there's not normally any doom and gloom with Modern.
I was going to say, don't talk us into recession.
So sorry, but there we go.
Should we do this one in the Mail about Colleen Rooney? She, of course, came... Was it second in the I'm a Celeb jungle? I thought she was quite interesting because she says, I nearly quit the jungle because, as a wag, I thought I'd had nothing to offer. And little story, Eamonn, I'm sure he won't mind me saying this, when he met my wife a few weeks back at some drinks, Eamonn said to my wife, oh, what do you do? And my wife said, you know, quite modestly, oh, I stay at home and look after the kids. And Eamonn said, no, don't you ever say that. That is one of the most important jobs going. being a mother, looking after the household. You know, perhaps the most important job going. And Colleen here admitting that, you know, she thought she really had nothing to offer, wasn't worth much because she was just a wag who stays at home with their 5 boys.
Ben, I'm so pleased that Andy picked this story, actually, because I watched it and I loved The Jungle and I loved everything about it. And I think Danny was a really good winner, and he is king of the jungle, clearly. But Colleen really struck a chord with me because one of her bits to camera, she was saying, you know what, I am a proud mother, I'm a proud wife, I'm a proud daughter. And for the first time, she was proud of herself because being a stay-at-home mum, I was one, you give so much of yourself to make sure everything runs in the house, to make sure the kids have everything they want, to make sure everything works, that often you're lost in it. You've got no identity. You're X, Y, Z's mum.
Your mum.
Or you're whatever. You're not yourself. And it's that level of service that I think is lost, not only in motherhood, not only in families, but in society.
Yeah.
And no one would think of getting a coffee for someone or remembering someone's name. These key things make the world go round and make everyone feel valued.
Yeah, society doesn't appreciate stay-at-home mums because they're not contributing to the economy, but what they are doing is contributing to the upbringing of their children, which is an invaluable thing. But I have to say, I hate to be deeply cynical, I suspect Colleen has loads of help. It's not like she's glued to the washing up or the washing machine and the dryer.
True.
I'm sure that's true, but...
No, but that is the grind. I mean, I work, but I also do all this stuff with as a mum, and it is absolutely relentless. And I think to myself, here I go again. Last night I was like, my son had fallen in a massive puddle. I was squeezing out the mud from his trousers. I was like, this is mundane. It is absolutely thankless. And the kids never say thank you, do they? But it's important work.
It is, and I'm sure you're right. I'm sure she has plenty of help, but she did come across, actually, as really quite down-to-earth.
Yeah.
For somebody who lives in a £20 million house and whose husband is one of the...
And I was struck as well that when one of the kids, after half-term, one of the May half-terms, was asked by one of the teachers, said to one of her sons, oh, what was the best bit about your half-term? He was like, being in Butlins. It was the best thing.
I was a bit confused because she's from a very Catholic family, isn't she? And they adopted a disabled sibling or fostered
Colleen's sister, who died.
But I thought that the Catholics in Liverpool all supported Everton. Forgive my ignorance. I thought you might know about this as a Catholic.
You see, there's a funny thing. Glasgow Celtic supporters support Liverpool.
Oh, OK.
Right? And Everton is the more Catholic team of Liverpool, so I don't know.
I don't know either. I was just surprised when she said that. I thought all the Catholics supported Everton, but what do I know?
OK, what do you fancy next, Andy?
Can we talk about Donald Trump's new perfume?
Please.
Make America Smell Great Again. Is
that honestly his?
No, it's not.
Right.
But it should be. It should be. No, I mean this is just the say what you like about Donald Trump, but he knows how to make money out of thin air.
Literally.
This is exactly. This is the latest kind of grift. From Donald Trump. We had NFTs, we had $100,000 watches.
Trainers.
We had, it was like $800 trainers. But people are lapping it up. People love the MAGA merch. And I'm sure people will buy... I'd love to know what it smells like.
Do you know what they're called?
Can you imagine?
It smells like money.
Yeah, it does.
Can you actually guess what it's called?
What?
Fight.
Is it?
Is it really?
Yes.
Crikey. Is it just pure testosterone or something in there?
No, they've got a ladies' one and a gents' one.
Oh, it's not a J'adore, is it?
Well, you don't know. I might love it. I'm going in the 31st of January, so I'll let you know. 31st of December.
Does it have that iconic image on the post-shooting image on the front of the bottle, or do we know what the design is?
The actual ad is featuring Biden's wife, and it's a fragrance your enemies can't resist. And they've got a picture.
Oh, that's quite clever. To be fair, that is pretty clever.
It was a picture of Jill Biden looking longingly at Donald Trump at the Notre Dame opening over the weekend. They were sat one seat apart from each other. Joe Biden wasn't there, so I think Donald was...
Nor was Keir Starmer, let's say.
There it is. We can see the front of the... Yeah, that's quite something. What a design.
Absolutely stunning.
Taylor Swift, Claire, her Eras tour is coming to an end, or has come to an end.
Did you go, Ben? Did you go and see Taylor Swift?
Absolutely not.
Didn't get any free tickets?
No, even if I had free tickets.
Would you have gone?
No. I don't rate her.
I don't either.
I absolutely would have gone. She's an icon. She is an icon.
Yeah.
She is. She's an absolute symbol of her generation. She puts on an incredible show. I think the number of people who've been to see her over the world, the amount of money it's generated speaks for itself.
She donated, in terms of bonuses for her Eras Tour team, millions, didn't she? And every time she performed in a city, she made a contribution to the food banks there. I think it was something like, might have even been Liverpool, where she paid for the entire year of food banks provision. She's a huge feminist, stands up for women's rights. She also speaks up for artists who are starting out in the industry who are making absolutely no money because of streaming being basically not profitable anymore.
But does she stand up against the streaming?
Now off our radar.
How long was that? That tour was one of the longest
like
tours.
3 years or something.
She transcended how many countries, how many cities?
It was the first tour in history to surpass $1 billion in ticket sales, and at the end of it, they made £1.63 billion in revenue.
I think it's time she popped off and had some babies, though. She's 34.
I just can't believe she was more actually adored than Oasis when Oasis said they were coming back for tickets.
I'm not denying she's talented and obviously clearly very generous. I don't get it, the godlike status. I don't.
But it's not for you,
I look
is
at
it,
someone
Ben?
like Michael Jackson. I look at Michael Jackson.
If it's not for Ben, why is it for you?
Well, I'm not like a mega fan. I'm not Swiftie.
Oh,
but
I think
would
you
go.
are.
You can bet your bottom dollar. If someone said to you, do you want to go and see Taylor Swift? Absolutely. It'd be a brilliant spectacle.
I don't particularly like her songs. I don't think her lyrics are that good. I don't think she's a good dancer. Compared to, say...
Ben, even I kind of had to push back against that.
Compared to, say, Michael Jackson...
Well, that's quite a high bar.
Isn't it? Yeah, it's apples and pears. She's different, and she writes all her own stuff. I don't think Michael Jackson did. He got everyone else to write it. He just had this
Quincy
incredible
Jones?
falsetto. Anyway, it's apples and pears. You can have two different things that are brilliant. You know, she's not my favourite artist of all time, but I've got a lot of time for her.
Yeah, look, I get it to an extent. I just don't think she is god tier status.
I know some people do
pop star.
sort of worship her a bit. That's a bit odd, but that's classic, isn't it? When you've got young girls.
Yeah, a whole generation of young girls.
Why does a girl want to be a Swiftie, eh? It's hard. I don't think it's.
She's not exactly a bad role model, is she?
Well, I don't know.
Is she?
I don't know. I've just said.
I think she's a really. I think for all the reasons Isabel said, she's actually a great role model for young girls.
Name a hit.
Shake It Off.
Yes,
Okay.
it's massive.
Passed.
My daughter
I Knew
can
You Were
sing them
Trouble.
all. Monster on the Hill. I don't know if that's the song, but it's one of the lyrics.
Don't get it.
Don't make me sing.
Yeah, on you go. Isabel, carry on.
No, I'm awful. I think we have breaking TVs
I think
and radios
no, you
all
will
over
not.
the nation.
You will not.
Can we talk about Storm Darrow? Apparently, some houses are still without power.
Electricity.
One of my friends in our next door village was out of power from Saturday 5 o'clock until Monday night, but some still today.
And how long is it due to go on for? Quite a few more days yet, I think.
How hard is it to restore power? I don't really understand.
I don't understand either, but I know that it made the pub crawl I went on Saturday much more difficult than it should have been. Not that that's the worst thing in the world about this storm, but that was the impact on me at least.
Passengers were told to expect delays to train services on the West Coast Main Line between London and Scotland, while people were told not to travel in parts of Wales and Cornwall until at least noon yesterday.
Well, it doesn't take a storm to delay trains in this country.
No, that's true.
That's
but on
my point.
Instagram, I did see footage yesterday, and I'll try and find it to show it later, but people trying to cross the road in Newquay during the wind, various different people just unable to because of this billowing winds.
Wow.
Okay.
Anyway, we have to leave it there. Thank you both very much indeed.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Talking of the weather, let's get your forecast with Ada McGiven.
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. High pressure in charge today, a stark contrast to last week's stormy weather. Cloudy for many, but frost and fog prevalent across northern parts of the country. Scotland, Northern Ireland, seeing some low temperatures as we begin the day, and some dense fog patches could cause tricky driving conditions, particularly through the central belt, and that fog could persist into the afternoon in one or two spots. Otherwise, sunny skies for Scotland and Northern Ireland. The Northern Isles affected by cloud and rain, and some showery rain coming into the southeast of England on a brisk northeasterly breeze. That's going to make it feel cold, 7 or 8 Celsius in the south, but below freezing where any fog patches persist. And that fog will tend to reform and develop more widely once again into the evening as the sun goes down, especially through the central belt, but also across many Highland glens and into Northern Ireland as well. Some dense fog patches forming widely after dark. Meanwhile, clear skies will lead to sub-zero temperatures once again for Scotland, Northern Ireland, parts of northwest England and West Wales overnight, but a lot of cloud remains for the rest of England and Wales, and again some showery rain and a brisk breeze coming in from the northeast will keep temperatures above freezing in the south and southeast. but it's going to be a grey night across many southern and eastern parts of England as well as Wales. 4 to 6 Celsius first thing, where we've got the cloud cover, where we've got the clearer skies, all the freezing fog. Temperatures will be several degrees below freezing. So Northern Ireland, Scotland begin Wednesday similar to this morning. Frost widely, dense fog patches, some of that fog persisting into the afternoon. Otherwise, crisp winter sunshine for much of northern UK. Further south, cloudy skies continue, although some brighter interludes will emerge across central parts. Highs here of 6 to 8 Celsius.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's our festive treat to you. Your chance to win an incredible £50,000 in tax-free cash. Our biggest ever Great British giveaway.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. The A720 Edinburgh City bypass is partly blocked westbound by an accident at the Lothian-Burn junction, taking over an hour in queues from the Sheriff Hall roundabout. Stena Line and Irish Ferry sailings remain suspended between Holyhead and Dublin. In Lincolnshire, the A15 is closed each way at Metheringham after an accident, and the A151 is closed along Bourne Road at Corby Glen after an accident. In Leicestershire, the A6 is closed north of Market Harborough near to Kibworth Beecham after an accident. Ceredigion, the A44 is closed east of Pontywydd again today. They've still got a fallen tree. The M6 in the West Midlands has a lane closed northbound at junction 5 near Birmingham, where a lorry's broken down, taking about half an hour in queues from junction 4. In Monmouthshire, the A40 is closed each way west of Abergavenny for emergency repairs. And in London, the South Circular is closed each way along Poinders Road at Clapham Park for an investigation.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date. Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Very good morning to you. A new landmark agreement between the UK and Germany to stop the people smuggling gangs.
That's as the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, pauses all decisions on Syrian asylum claims.
So, will the new changes help to finally put an end to illegal crossings in the English Channel?
Another Tory defection, the billionaire Nick Candy has joined Reform as the party's new treasurer, pledging to help make Nigel Farage Prime Minister.
A 26-year-old suspect at the centre of last week's health CEO shooting in New York has been dramatically arrested at a McDonald's in the United States and has now been charged.
Farmers prepare for another day of protest as the government ignores their pleas over changes to inheritance tax.
And Prince Harry's latest Netflix adventure premieres today. It's called Polo, but will it be a flop like the couple's previous streaming offerings?
High pressure has returned, a stark contrast to the storminess of last week, but not necessarily dry and sunny for everyone. There will be some showery rain and even some dense fog about this morning. I'll have the full forecast coming up shortly.
It's just gone 9 o'clock. I'm Ben Leo.
I'm Isabel Webster, and you're tuned in to GB News Breakfast. So my friends at home know that I'm a bit of a fan of a sauna, and a story has just popped up in the news that Carrie Johnson, the former Prime Minister's wife, has appealed to her 99,000 followers on social media for some tips on a good sauna company to build them in their garden.
I can help
and, you know, if I think I'm a keen bean when it comes to sauna, what do I know compared to you? You're a bona fide sauna owner.
That's why I look so young.
To give some advice to Carrie. She might be watching. I know she does often.
We're not allowed to. Are we allowed to promote
Probably
brands?
not.
Not really.
No, but maybe direct message her later.
I can help you, Carrie. Give me a message on Instagram, on Twitter. I'll help you out. But yeah, I've got I invested during COVID when we were working from home a lot in a sauna in the garden. So I saved up the pennies for it.
Top tip: do you go for infrared or actual proper dry heat?
Infrared.
Infrared?
Yeah,
okay,
because the infrared, it's not as warm, so you can stay in longer, but it heats your body directly, so you sweat more. When you come out after 40 minutes at around 60 degrees, you build up a tolerance to it. It's like you've been in a shower, just dripping from everywhere.
Skin. Yeah. Well, there you go. You can send Carrie all your thoughts there. Let's turn our attention, shall we, though, to other matters. The UK and Germany have agreed a landmark action plan to tackle small boat crossings.
Yes, the plan means Germany will now make it as specific a criminal offence to facilitate migrant smuggling to the UK.
Well, the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, says that the deal will boost border security and save lives.
Where the gangs operate across borders, law enforcement needs to operate across borders as well. And that is why this joint action plan is so important. This is groundbreaking work in order to allow us to share intelligence, to better share information, to be able to strengthen our actions, strengthen law enforcement and powers to be able to go after the criminal gangs and their supply chains and their illicit finance as well.
But the big question is, will it work? The Shadow Home Secretary, Chris Philp, doesn't think so. He said the plans don't go far enough.
Well, let's speak to GB News political editor Christopher Hope about all of this. What do you make of this, Christopher?
Morning, Ben. Yeah, morning, Isabel, from here in Westminster. I think it's quite a good deal, actually. I was talking to the German ambassador last night about this deal. It comes into force immediately, overnight. They're going to criminalise gangs who store up these small boats, these distinctive dinghies in Germany before they're moved to northern France. And it is actual bearing fruit of Keir Starmer's attempt to do more bilateral deals, work more closely with the enforcement bodies on the continent. It is actual, it's a tangible result of that. I was in Berlin with the PM when he met Olaf Scholz earlier this year. We saw him also, I saw him embrace very warmly Scholz when they met in Washington at the NATO summit back in July. They are very close, and I think this does show, if you want to give Sir Keir Starmer the credit, it does show how his personal connections on the continent is yielding with important deals. Of course, Olaf Scholz could be out of office, in fact, looks certain to be out of office according to polls with the election due early in January. But I think this does show to me that this idea of working more closely with continental enforcement bodies, which he talked about so much, and that's why he's axed that Rwanda plan that the Tory party spent £400 million on. That's why he's done it. Let's see if it works. But the signs are that this is a meaningful law. It comes into force overnight. Let's see if it actually does slow those crossings from northern France to the south coast of this country.
And meanwhile, what about the pausing of asylum claims for Syrians, Christopher? Obviously, there are concerns about possibly the infiltration of jihadis, but also whether or not it is safe for the 6,000 or so Syrians to return to Syria, given we don't really know who the successor to Bashar al-Assad will be.
Well, that's right. The government has correctly got a watching brief on what's happening in Syria. They have paused those asylum claims by Syrians. There's clearly concerns of who may try and come from Syria to this country. But there's 19,000 or so Syrians now in the UK. Some may want to go home, but it's very unclear what they're going home to. So I think, and also there's no facilitating of that by the UK. We asked them yesterday, will the UK lay on flights to take Syrians who came here during the refugee crisis back to Damascus? And they said that's one for the families. The UK's concern right now is stabilising the very febrile political situation in Syria.
OK, Christopher, a slight change of subject. A bit of a coup for Reform UK, their supporters say, because Nick Candy, who the billionaire previous Conservative Party donor, he said he's defected to Reform UK. So a couple of quid in the coffers for Nigel and co.
It's more than a couple of quid, Ben. This guy, he fundraised the entire Tory mayoral campaign back in May. He basically, as a Tory financier, kind of owns London for the Tory party. His value to the Tories cannot be underestimated. He has vowed to raise enough funds for them to win the next general election. He's donated to the Tory party since 2009, raised millions more. He's targeting now with the party the May local elections in English counties in 2025, which increasingly is looking like a referendum on this Labour government. He says in quotes released today he's quit as a Tory member after many years of active support. He's sorry, he says, but there's been too many broken promises and a complete breakdown of trust with the wealth creators in our country. That's with the Conservative Party, but it could equally be applied, you'd imagine, to Labour. He says that Nigel Farage is a close friend of his, and Reform UK represents the future of UK politics. He is now the treasurer of Reform, having been there when Farage came out of retirement to front up Reform UK's leadership election campaign back in July. Behind the scenes, I spotted Nick Candy with his wife Holly Valance, the former Australian pop star, drinking champagne. They are close friends of Farage. Until now, it was only close friends. Well, now it looks much more professional, and this should worry, I would imagine, the Tory party. Nick Candy and Holly Valance, they met with Donald Trump. There's a famous photograph of them meeting Trump with Farage a few years ago, and it comes after quite 2 weeks of high-profile defections. Tim Montgomery, the guy who founded Conservative Home website, a member for 36 years, he's come across. Lots of Tory grassroots are watching that. Dame Andrea Jenkin, a former Tory minister, she also came across. This is the finances getting in place. Reform is getting organised. Ben and Isabel.
Yeah, don't forget, of course, Willa Braverman's husband, Rael, as well, over at the weekend. And I really remember, actually, Chopper, when you were at that big announcement when Farage stepped out of retirement and you were interviewing Holly Valance about it all. And actually, that's why I wasn't surprised by this announcement today, because, forgive me, I actually thought he was already a member of Reform.
Yeah, that's right. He's been behind the scenes for a while. I mean, to be fair to Nick Candy, he's a friend of Nigel Farage, goes back years. You can turn up to support a friend at a political event. Until now, though, he hadn't nailed his colours to a mask, and he has done so today by nailing his colours to that kind of strange turquoise colour rather than the blue colour of Reform UK.
But Chopper, sorry to keep you. He in February said that Keir Starmer was a decent man, the Prime Minister. Well, he wasn't then the Prime Minister, he was the leader of the opposition. But he said Keir Starmer was a decent man with good values and good morals, and it was time for change, and he was supporting a new Labour government. So forgive me for thinking he seems to sort of change with the wind, Nick Candy.
Well, he said as much then. I think many Tory donors, business people, had fallen out with the Tory party. Back then, Keir Starmer represented change. He had promised no big tax hikes across income tax, national insurance, VAT, and many took the party at its word. They then did that budget, didn't they, last month in October, Ben, when they increased employers' national insurance, which many thought had been a pledge not to do so, and other areas too, of course, winter fuel and also the issue with the farmers' inheritance tax. So, and they haven't had a good 6 months. So I think someone can be allowed to change their mind, particularly in politics.
OK, yeah, good point. Thanks, Chopper. Appreciate it.
Right, one of those sort of political headaches for the government of their own making, you could argue, is with the farmers. And with that unrest brewing amongst that community, hundreds of tractors are planning to descend on Westminster tomorrow, and it should be said, right across the country, in protest.
Yeah, of course, it comes after the government announced changes to agricultural inheritance tax in October's budget, which rally organisers Kent Fairness for Farmers and Save British Farming described as toxic.
Well, earlier we spoke with the dairy farmer and the columnist, Paul Tompkins.
Part of a wider campaign to keep this story in the headlines. So the point of turning up at these events, I'm actually going to be at one in York rather than London, is a slow reminder that this topic is not going away. Farmers are really affected by this policy, and we're going to be doing all we can to make sure that the Chancellor is willing to come to the table, meet with us, talk with us, understand what the problems are, so that we can find out a resolution that works for everyone.
And we will have full coverage of those protests tomorrow, as you'd expect, right here on GB News.
Let's have a look at some of the other stories coming into the newsroom this morning. 26-year-old Luigi Mangione has been arrested and charged overnight in connection with the fatal shooting of US healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Mr. Thompson, of course, was shot dead on a Manhattan street in broad daylight last week in what's believed to have been a targeted assassination.
The suspect, Mr. Mangione, was arrested at a Pennsylvania McDonald's and was quickly taken into custody after being recognised by staff. According to police officials, he was found carrying a handwritten manifesto which criticised healthcare companies.
The Prime Minister has said Britain and its allies must be intensely focused on the transition to a new regime in Syria. That's amid fears of a resurgent Islamic State. And it comes as Reuters reports that Israeli tanks are now nearing the Syrian capital of Damascus.
And the Princess of Wales is one of the 10 people who've been shortlisted for Time Person of the Year. She's joining the likes of Elon Musk, Donald Trump, Kamala Harris, Benjamin Netanyahu and Yulia Navalnaya, amongst others. Princess Catherine is being hailed by the magazine for starting a conversation around privacy and for health for public figures.
All right, time now for the Great British Giveaway and your chance to become our biggest ever winner with an incredible, get this, £50,000 in tax-free cash.
Yeah, nice work if you can get it. Well, this is how you get your hands on it. Make sure you're in it if you want to win it.
Imagine getting the call to tell you that you've won £50,000 in tax-free cash, our biggest cash prize of the year.
Right, stay with us. Still to come, we're going to have your Christmas Advent all sorted for you, plus Andrew and Bev previewing Britain's newsroom. See you in a moment.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Lee Anderson's Real World, Fridays from 7 p.m.
Last orders at the bar, and I'm joined by Geordie Shore star Ricky Guanaccio. Have I said that right? Is that Italian?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Is Italian? Your parents Italian? Is it?
Pronunciation was pretty much perfect.
Yeah, well, there you go. So, look, mate, Geordie Shore, I never watched it, mate, so I do apologise about that. But I know these reality TV shows are making big stars out of the people, making you famous, making you loads of money. Is it worth it?
For me personally, yeah. It's been a hell of a career. Been a hell of a lot of fun doing it. Ups and downs, but first and foremost, money-wise, yeah.
That's good. So people stopping in the street, you being famous, wanting the autograph and all. How did you cope with that, Ricky?
Well, when we first started doing the show, I mean, we got our show off the back of Jersey Shore in America. We never expected the fame that we got, and you know, being one of the biggest reality TV shows in the UK and now the world. You know, it's in 150 odd countries worldwide. Wow. It's pretty crazy. It's when you're living in houses. I mean, for example, Geordie Shore and Love Island's probably the same as well. When you're living in villas and you're living in houses, the arguing side sort of plays on your mind. You've got to deal with all that. You know, it's a hard place to be. It's a pressure cooker.
You're living in one of these villas, Ricky, or one of these houses. Do you ever wake up one morning and think, what am I doing here?
When I first started, yes. Yeah. Now, I love it.
Yeah?
I don't mind all the, you know, there's no emotion connecting me now with film, and it's kind of like I go in there, it's fun, or it's, you know, it's dramatic, whatever it may be.
Have you ever worked behind a bar?
No.
No?
Yeah, for not a long period of time. My mum and dad had a...
Well, I can
definitely messed this one up.
Yeah, I can actually believe that you've never worked behind a bar.
Yeah, so my parents sacked us when I worked in the restaurant.
Well, obviously, I mean, you wouldn't get a job here with a pint like that, would you?
Do you want it?
No, mate, no.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back. 9:17, Ben and Isabel with you on GB News Breakfast. Thank you for all your comments this morning and emails on Your Say and the old email address. Just one on dementia. It's been a big theme this morning because, of course, if you didn't know, Prince Harry's new Netflix show is premiering. Is it today, Isabel?
Yeah.
It's called Polo. Sorry, that's a completely different
you've
story.
got dementia now.
Goodness me. Yeah, we were talking about polo as well. The reason we're talking about dementia is because this new groundbreaking report today says, well, it revealed that dementia is the biggest killer in the UK last year.
Really shocking, actually,
Massive shock for both
of
us. Gerard, good morning. You said, my mum never smoked or drank and she always ate healthily and was active mentally and physically, but she died of dementia, which was extremely painful for us to watch. So you can't blame lifestyle choices or compare it to obesity.
Yeah, and so many of you have been getting in touch with, to be perfectly honest, heartbreaking personal stories, whether it's giving up work, being a carer yourself, watching somebody you love diminish before your very eyes. It's obviously a topic that has really got you all going this morning, so thank you for sending in your messages. Another topic that's got lots of our viewers going, is your disdain for Taylor Swift.
Do they support me or not?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I've got no problem with her. She's obviously very talented and she's making money and she's very generous. Great, but I just don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, you don't look like a Swiftie, to be fair. You're not necessarily a demographic.
I don't know, just like a Metallica fan?
A dad in his, mid-30s.
Oh, no, have I reached that stage?
Yeah, you're like...
boring dad.
Although dads tend to like Swifties, aren't they? Because girls are often. But anyway.
Yeah, I've got boys.
You're a dad of boys. Right. We have lots more coming up for you. We'll be speaking to Bev and Andrew about what is coming up in their programme just after 9:30. But we've also got the countdown to Christmas.
Yes, the countdown to Christmas Day, of course. During that time, we're hearing from church ministers all across the country. And each day, they have a very special message for you to celebrate the festive season.
The GB News Advent Calendar, Day 10.
I'm the Reverend Mike Milmine and a very warm welcome to St Leonard's Church in Denton, where I'm priest in charge. The Office of National Statistics reckons that we sell so many Brussels sprouts in the UK over the Christmas season that if you were to begin lining them up in central London, you would get all the way to Sydney, Australia. That is a lot of Brussels sprouts. Now, whether you like Brussels sprouts or not, there is no denying that Christmas is a wonderful season for food. And rightly so. because food is right at the heart of the mystery of what Christmas is all about. See, food reminds us that we are dependent creatures. We need a life source, you and I, given to us from outside of us. And we see that in so many of the details of the Christmas story. Jesus, he's born in Bethlehem, which means house of bread. As Jesus is born, he is laid in a manger, which is a feeding trough. Why? Because just as we need physical food to sustain our temporary life, Jesus is bread for the soul, bringing eternal life to all who receive him in faith.
A reminder, if you are a fan of those segments, you can find all of them, our special Advent messages, on our website. You just need to go to gbnews.com/Advent.
OK, every day we run our poll of the day, and today we've been asking, should more funding go towards dementia care in Britain?
Yeah.
A pretty emphatic result.
Yeah, emphatically, 95% of you say absolutely yes. Just 5% of you saying no. As always, Martin Daubney will have your final result this afternoon, and if you'd like to cast your vote, gbnews.com/poll is the place to go.
OK, Britain's newsroom is coming up at 9:30. Andrew Pearce and Bev Turner are presenting. Just Bev with us now. Where's Andrew?
Andrew will be hot-footing it here, I've no doubt, at the moment. We've got an amazing show for you today. I don't know whether you remember, but a few months ago we raised money for the nuclear veterans.
Yeah, such a great story there.
Such a great story. And our viewers and our listeners were so generous, and they donated a huge amount of money. And this was in order to buy a holiday for our veterans and their families. But you guys at home gave so much money that they're also having a massive Christmas lunch today.
Aww.
So we're going to be joining them live from their Christmas lunch today. And also we're going to be talking about, we're going to have this story about Nick Candy joining Reform as well, which is an interesting story. What is the Treasurer? What exactly is he going to do for Reform? Is this the Americanisation?
He's going to work out how to spend Musk's millions.
And is it the Americanisation of our British political system to some degree? And is that necessarily a bad thing? I'm not sure if it is.
Yeah, I've got this theory that we're a few years behind the US, and
me too.
I think we're just, I've said it before like a broken record, but I think we're just starting our Joe Biden era in the UK, and we're possibly going to have 4 or 5 years of
misery.
Well, you said it, not me. but yeah, and then at the end of it, more people will realise, you know, actually we need some common sense
But
policy.
I think the big question is what comes after this period, and is it going to be enough to turn 5 MPs into a majority, or could there be some sort of alliance between the sort of failing Conservative Party and the rising Reform? And I think that's going to be a really interesting political story in the next few years.
Huge. And we've got Luciana Berger on the panel today, and I want to ask her about this exchange between Nick Timothy, the MP, who asked Bridget Phillipson, could she congratulate Catherine Birbalsingh, who, of course, runs the Michaela Academy. It's the best performing state school in the country. She brings people together of all faiths, nationalities, religions, cultures, and she talks about cohesion. And Bridget Phillipson couldn't congratulate her in the House of Commons yesterday.
Why not?
We don't know.
She was the former mobility czar under Boris, wasn't she? She's obviously highly connected to the previous administration.
Yeah.
Bridget Phillipson is so bathed in ideology, she couldn't do it, I would assume.
I think so.
But, you know, you should recognise success where you see success. But she's been controversial, hasn't she, Catherine? Because she has taken a very strong position on whether or not Muslim students are allowed to pray there or not, and perhaps the Labour Party are afraid to say that because they don't want to alienate their Islamic vote.
And how tragic is that? Because she won that court case when there was a Muslim student in the school that wanted a place to pray.
Yeah.
So, yeah, a lot to talk about this morning.
Great, look forward to it. Thanks, Bev.
Sounds like a good show. As always, enjoy. We'll be back bright and early, 6 o'clock tomorrow. Hope you have a lovely Tuesday. In the meantime, here is one last look at your forecast. Bye-bye.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. High pressure in charge today, a stark contrast to last week's stormy weather. Cloudy for many, but frost and fog prevalent across northern parts of the country. Scotland, Northern Ireland, seeing some low temperatures as we begin the day, and some dense fog patches could cause tricky driving conditions particularly through the central belt, and that fog could persist into the afternoon in one or two spots. Otherwise, sunny skies for Scotland and Northern Ireland. The Northern Isles affected by cloud and rain, and some showery rain coming into the southeast of England on a brisk northeasterly breeze. That's going to make it feel cold, 7 or 8 Celsius in the south, but below freezing where any fog patches persist. And that fog will tend to reform and develop more widely once again into the evening as the sun goes down, especially through the central belt, but also across many Highland glens and into Northern Ireland as well. Some dense fog patches forming widely after dark. Meanwhile, clear skies will lead to sub-zero temperatures once again for Scotland, Northern Ireland, parts of northwest England and West Wales overnight, but a lot of cloud remains for the rest of England and Wales, and again some showery rain and a brisk breeze coming in from the northeast will keep temperatures above freezing in the south and southeast. But it's going to be a grey night across many southern and eastern parts of England as well as Wales. 4 to 6 Celsius first thing, where we've got the cloud cover, where we've got the clearer skies, all the freezing fog. Temperatures will be several degrees below freezing. So Northern Ireland, Scotland begin Wednesday similar to this morning. Frost widely, dense fog patches, some of that fog persisting into the afternoon. Otherwise, crisp winter sunshine for much of northern UK. Further south, cloudy skies continue, although some brighter interludes will emerge across central parts. Highs here of 6 to 8 Celsius.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On the A720 Edinburgh City bypass, the inside lane's closed westbound at the Lothian Burn junction after an accident. It's taking over an hour in queues from the Sheriff Hall roundabout. On the M74 in South Lanarkshire, there's a lane closed northbound where a lorry's broken down between junctions 4 and 3 from Maryville to Carmyle, causing queues. Stena Line and Irish ferry sailings remain suspended between Holyhead and Dublin. In Lincolnshire, the A15 is closed each way at Metheringham after an accident, and the A151 is closed along Bourne Road